Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to the blue area of the moon in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the Uncanny Chris.
I'm the podcaster, Mischief Dress now.
Alliance Assemble.
Well, Chris, I'm going to ask you to kill some time as I pick my preferred mic.
Well, yes, I can do that. I was wondering why when we were doing the pre-show, I wasn't going to say anything. I said, maybe you got a different mic. I should have said something earlier.
Okay,
but
do I sound better now?
Yes, you do. You sound better.
There we go. I'm sorry for the first 30 seconds, people. I literally, as I looked at it, I'm like, my mic's not plugged in at all. This is going to be a terrible show.
he pulled a Chris, because Chris has done that before.
Yeah, so luckily I caught it. But how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. End of the week, almost through. We're almost hired up at the school, so I took a look at the number of new hires and replacements. At that point, we've definitely had a lot, but we're almost hired up for the year. We've got about 3 or 4 weeks left before staff comes back. So.
Yeah, well, I guess when people are listening to this, it's the Friday, but we record this on the Thursday. So I can let you know that I had a bad day because I woke up thinking it was Friday and I was quite excited for about 10 minutes. And then that excitement dropped as I realized, no, it's not Friday. And here we are. But you know what? I'm happy doing this with you. Everyone should thank me because hashtag thank me. Everyone should thank me because I was supposed to be seeing Snake Eyes. But I said, you know what, guys, Kirkland and Taylor, you can review without me because I already guaranteed to the guys I'll be on Marvel Alliance. So God forbid that I'm missing Snake Eyes, Chris. It's such a tragedy that I had to miss Snake Eyes to be on this show. Wink.
Well, I mean, one could say that. I mean, if BD is saying, well, it's not as bad as, that's not a
when people say, oh, it's fine, that's
yep.
Like I've been there before, but that's a Paramount, and it's crazy because I know it's that way for you guys with Paramount Plus out there, but even Canada here for, I guess their partners Amazon Prime, that 45 days Quiet Place is already up there. It's crazy. So it's just,
I did a double header this weekend. It's the first time I've ever seen Quiet Place and Quiet Place Part 2, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so one, that's great, but two, also I'm just like, well, I can wait 45 days for Snake Eyes. That's one where it's like that's completely fine for me. So, but yeah.
As Heinz says in the chat, you are a saint.
I do for the people, the people that, I'm the chairman of the Geek for Scotland League. I'm the podfather, you said, so always for the people. So
always. Well, why don't you do the plugs? Because you said you've got some announcements to be made and some changes are coming up. And so why don't you take the plugs?
Yeah, so I'll get the regular stuff out of the way, all the good stuff. But ladies and gentlemen, so this is the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We have right now 7 days a week, 7 shows. I'll get into that right now. What a travesty. Oh, Joe's already bugged me. But, Snake Eyes, go see it. Support it if you like.
Maybe.
That's good. Yeah, maybe. Monday is a switch off between World's Finest True Believers. What did you cover this week, Chris? Before I say what the other thing is on Monday.
I covered, we had Dave from DC On Screen and the Star Trek Universe podcast, and we covered one of his favorite books called It's a Bird. It's basically about an author who is given the quote-unquote dream of all comic book writers' dream to write Superman, and he's not excited about it and doesn't think he can relate to it. And it's basically a really interesting deconstruction that he goes through about Superman and his understanding of the character. So it's not your typical superhero book in the sense, but it's a DC Vertigo line. Really good book. We had a great discussion, and definitely check it out.
Yeah, so we have that on Mondays. Bi-weekly after that is Ranger Alliance. So this Monday, you'll have a new episode of Ranger Alliance. Every Tuesday is DC Alliance. They record live on the Mondays for the most part, but they're ramping up. They got Suicide Squad coming out, which I'm not sure if they've announced it, but I feel like I can announce it. Heinz, you call me the podfather, so I'm taking it. I'm doing it. You're getting close, but they will be reviewing that with a bevy of guests from GUA on the Saturday, which is the 7th, I believe, right? Because it comes out the 6th, so the 7th is when they'll be reviewing it live, and then it will drop. Not sure what time they're recording yet. probably the usual kind of 9 p.m. Eastern. We'll get back to you on that, but that's when they're recording it. So it'll drop either late Saturday or Sunday on the actual podcast feed. But yeah, so when you see Suicide Squad, jump over. It's going to be Hines and Clay's first DC review, so that's going to be lots of fun, and they're ramping up with that. So they just had Titans trailer to talk about, which I'm very excited for. And, they also got Titans coming up. As long as work will permit, Chris and Brent might be on the finale, but I'm going to be on the first three.
Oh no,
Hopefully.
we agreed. They saw our challenge to review it, so we will make both of us will definitely make that happen.
Yeah, so and that for me, I'm a 50-50, but my plan is I want to be on the first three, especially because if there is some Joker action, you know me, Clay, you know me, I gotta be talking about Batman and Joker. So and I gotta keep it positive for somebody,
And I'll definitely plug something too. I've got to get a new guest coming up on World's Finest that it will be timely of the book they have chosen for Titans. So that will drop during I think it'll be the second week of Titans. It'll be the week after the premiere. So I think if it works out correctly, but yeah, good timing for that guest coming up.
There you go. Synergy, folks. Synergy. Wednesdays is now superhero discussions. Hines is reviewing Rick and Morty. So that's, I've never watched the show, but I know they're having lots of fun and lots of the viewers are liking that. So check out that. Thursdays is Katie's day for now, but that is Katie's day as right now. Slice of Film or Stars Alliance. She just dropped Slice of Film. Funny enough, we're just talking about Quiet Place Part 2 being out on streaming services. She just reviewed that. So check that out. And then Fridays, Marvel Alliance. Obviously, we record on the Thursdays for the majority part, but Fridays, Marvel Alliance. Only a few more weeks, and What If will be starting up, so that's going to be lots of fun. I can't wait to hear you guys talk about that. But yeah, so that's for the weekdays. Now, there's a few things. I'll start with what's coming and I'll start with what's leaving, what's coming. So usually I would say, and then the weekend is Weird Science. I've described this at the very beginning of the podcast launch. Other times that what we do is there's some shows that are Geek First owned, and there's some shows that are just spin-off shows that come to us and they can go and leave at any point. For example, like something like SES, they were with us for a little bit, went back on their own. The same thing as far as Weird Science. He is a podcast machine, so he's not necessarily taking the shows because he has so much. As Jim though does say that, now he has a little free time, he'll be more machine. But we had a year thing. August is coming up, so a big thank you, because Weird Science, Jim's going to be going off on his own again. Check out Weird Science on Twitter, their Patreon. That guy is just a machine as far as how much he goes, and he's just a gentleman. We had a good conversation this past week, and not saying we won't ever work together in the future, but that's kind of the end of the line as far as that goes. So check out everything he does there on those podcast feeds. Great guy, and a big thank you to all the podcasts he gave us these past few years. There might be some comic book stuff in the future down the line, but that's let's get through the summer and then we'll see. But if you're wondering, hey, I like comic books, I like them covered, don't worry about that. But also, as far as I said, it used to be Katie's day. She is switching from Thursday is still going to be Star Wars Alliance, and then there's going to be a different show the bi-weekly, which we're going to get into, but she is switching Slice Film to the Sunday. She's hoping, and this is just like a preemptive thing of hopefully one day to maybe make it full-time, but it's still going to be bi-weekly for now, but the Sunday would afford her to see some new film stuff like that. Star Wars Alliance is staying on the Thursday because when Mandalorian comes back and everything like that, she wants to cover it. So if you have any questions, hit her up on Thursday, though. So it's going to be Star Wars Alliance, and then it's going to go to a new show. Now, I do not want to steal the thunder. I'm not going to say exactly what it is. I'm going to say that if you like, as far as our coverage for Marvel and DC and Star Wars, and feel that, hey, on the network, we don't really talk about The Boys, or we don't talk about Transformers or things like that, this show might be for you. So as far as some promotion, check out DC Alliance, whether it's Monday Live or Tuesday when it drops, and maybe a certain guest host will tell you all about that show. But I will just not steal the thunder and just say that it is going to be Thursday bi-weekly. So look out for that, DC Alliance. And then importantly, if you really like what we do, head over to Patreon. $1 tier is a chip jar. $5 tier is a ad-free exclusive early episode feed. You can get all these episodes ad-free. Get you and Heinz just did Last Dance review, which I love that documentary. One of the best reviews as far as I love that documentary so much. So check that out. I know Last Ronin's coming up, but then in August, we're starting to plan that Amalgam Chats. If you like those are going to be sneaking their way back because I want to. And there was a lot of good praise for your guys' Black Widow review because a lot of people were saying like, oh, I love the hosts from different shows kind of mixing together and stuff like that. So look out for August, September, some new stuff dropping there. But we got some busy stuff. So that's everything. I always like to do a little behind the scenes when I'm here, a little, I can only drop scoops about our own network, Chris, Feige doesn't let me,
Yeah, Feige will do it on his own, but
Yeah.
let me give our shout out to our official sponsor for Marvel Alliance. That'd be organicpricebooks.com. JP and the crew at OPB are going on. Little hints toward the future. He is moving out. For those that don't know and don't follow JP, he has been running this store out of his garage, literally out of his garage, and he
Really?
has expanded so much in numbers and growth that he will be moving into an official warehouse for the stuff. So he will be
Ooh,
expanding the amount of offers that I believe that's coming in the next couple of weeks. He'll be officially expanding into his warehouse much sooner than he thought. He was thought by December it was going to happen, but he's grown that much that he needs to move
awesome.
in there. So good work for him. But again, check him out. New final order cutoff for some new pre-orders will be coming soon. I messaged him, but I haven't heard back from him right now when those are going to go live. But again, he's upped his discounts on DC, got some new bigger discounts on that. Marvel discounts are at the highest he can go right now. So great stuff. Again, if you use the code MarvelGUA at checkout, you will get $2 off every single order. And that lets them know that you are a listener of the show. Ships continental US, internationally, packaging great. Again, check out the crew at organicpricebooks.com. We appreciate them being our official sponsor.
Yeah,
Uh,
he'll be having my money soon with those two Moon Knight omnibuses coming out, and then if he gets that Batman, the No Man's Land, that's
oh, that's
also
coming
my
in.
money.
Oh yeah,
Oh, good.
that will be coming in I believe October, November.
And I'm
So
still in this internal struggle of myself of do I get Ultimate Spider-Man? I can't decide because I own a lot of them, like some because like I told you before that I've
mhm.
bought them, but they are older. But I just like, man, I'm already buying three more. But I'm literally only 2 chapters left of my Wolverine Omnibus. I went through that quickly,
Yep.
so I'm going. My goal now is I got to finish that Moon Knight one. I'm about halfway through because I don't want to buy the other two. But yes, go there. As I've said before, it's just a personal experience. I used to get on Amazon because it was just easy. I got my old new Wolverine. It was all not busted up, but not what you want for a collector's omnibus. Went through him, great condition. So that's the best thing I can say as far as that's why. And I go through him as far as I'm Canadian, so it works there too. So absolutely do that, and yeah, he'll be making my wallet lighter.
Yes, it will be. So we did say on Twitter, it was in the last couple of shows. Last show was reminder again to get those review for the contest at that point. So JP did in a package he sent to me. This is the Black Widow that's going to be given away tonight, and we've got our lovely Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I'm going to queue up. I did the random drawing. Now I want to say something up front. The big thing is we needed you all for if you did review to send us a screenshot or email it. I appreciate everyone that's done that. We're really like about 15 minutes before the show aired that some international ones had gotten in, and that's why we need you to screenshot them. So I'm really really sorry. I feel really bad that I did not get that information. That's why we needed the screenshots. I'm not trying to make you all feel bad, but there will be other contests. There will be others, and that's why we need the screenshots because I can't see international. Brent can't see international. I know Travis could possibly see Canada, but then we have other international that we can't see. So
Yeah,
I,
I can't see American reviews unless paying for them,
yeah,
which I have to do at Geek first. But
yeah. So again, I really want to say from bottom of my heart, Brent's bottom of his heart, we really, really appreciate those international ones that did get it in there. I'm sorry that we did not see that on did not get that to us. Again, that's not to guilt you. There will be other contests, but again, we really appreciate it. Really sorry about this. So, what was sent to us either through the DMs to Brent, myself, and the Marvel Alliance feed, and we did get one listener that emailed as well, since they don't do Twitter at that point. So, I recorded this this afternoon. So I'm going to cue this up and see if this works. All right, here we go. All right. So, Dookie, congratulations. You are our first winner, as was said at that point. And our second winner is, I believe I said MD at the Capulets.
There you go. So
So again, message either Marvel Alliance or myself or Brent, or email us at that point. Uh, Again, like we said, if you are in the continental U.S., you will get I will definitely. You have the choice of the Omnis. If you are international, uh, we will work out a deal with OPB. I believe they were saying they were going to give a $100 gift card for an international listener. So message us, give you a week to message us at that point. I know both of you had messaged the feed, so hopefully either you're watching live tonight or listening tomorrow. Whenever you do, message us. Congratulations. But again, we really appreciate it. And again, Doogie, you get the first choice. And MD, I'm not sure. I think Doogie, I can tell. It looks like you're in the U.S. at that point. And but if not, we'll work something out at that point. But again, there'll be more giveaways. We really appreciate everyone doing that. And so yeah, I think that's about it.
there you go. Well, should we get into some news?
Yes, definitely. So this time it's not Alfred Molina spilling some tea and some information. It's what do you call Mr. Feige?
Lord and Savior, the King, the Moneymaker. King Kevin, though, is my favorite. Hashtag King Kevin. So
Nathan, I want to say you are always a winner in my book. Always a
I,
winner.
I won't lie, Nathan. I tried the same thing. Like, hey, can I review and get some of these omnibuses? But no, I was shot down. Didn't happen. But yeah, the only difference between Molina and Feige, though, is he can well place put some information where Molina just spouts off just like a broken faucet or something. These are all things that are fun, but also you can tell they're nicely planted where, he wants us talking about them.
Yes, he does. So we got a couple of stories that kind of came out of this. He went on a podcast last week called D23 Inside Disney Podcast and talked about a number of comics. So we got about 3 or 4 of these we'll hit on. First one, Marvel Studios just had a big meeting about what is this? The multiverse in the MCU. So Feige, with the season finale of Loki kind of basically saying the multiverse is real. And so they're basically asking him, what's going on? What's going to be the multiverse in the MCU? And he said, we used to not need a whiteboard because it was really just all in our collective imaginations at the studio. Just before the pandemic, we started going, maybe we need a big whiteboard. And then we all went into our houses. We still have not done that yet, but the truth is a wonderfully dedicated, creative, spectacular team at Marvel, and are the one person who's dedicated to doing it full time each project. So, Mary Lavanos oversaw WandaVision from start to finish. Zoe Zagalhat oversaw the Falcon and Winter Soldier on the ground every day from start to finish. And Kevin Wright came up with a much of what you love about Loki, and was right next to Katie Heron and Tom Hiddleston in the entire team. Let's see. So he mentioned that while we'll sometimes call for changes to projects, he says sometimes we will come up one show and we'll have to have sometimes call and say, hey, well, actually, we've got to alter this because we've got to change that, but never to the detriment of the individual projects. If that were to happen, we wouldn't do it. And then coming back to the timeline of the multiverse, he says, as you indicated before we started recording, the multiverse is coming up in a big way. There's an interconnectivity. There are people that have already started to see and suss out that we've had a meeting this morning. And the whole broad Marvel Studios team was going through the multiverse and the rules and with the multiverse and exactly how to really deliver on the excitement surrounding the multiverse. So they've had a meeting. And it's rather interesting to see that some reason I doubt that they've just had that meeting right then and there. I think like they might have had a meeting, but I doubt this is the first meeting they've had.
I would hope after Loki, Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Doctor Strange, which I believe is either done filming or close to done filming, all those that have pretty much been filmed or in the can, if they're just meeting now, it'd be the first time I'd worry about Kevin Feige and what he's doing. But no, I think it's more just like meeting to talk about other things. It is interesting that if they were to meet again about the multiverse after those have all been in the can, that does make me think, okay, what is happening with the multiverse? Because I feel like that's one of the new debates as far as, is Doctor Strange the endpoint of the multiverse, or is there going to be a lot more?
Mm-hmm.
I have cases for each of them, but this is like 101 Marvel. They work together as a unit. You know, you have people like Nita Costa who just said like last week she's had a great time working on the Marvels, most freedom she's had. And I think I've said this before. We've all said this as far as they hire the people that are going to work well with the team. And that's why, yeah, there might be some, you know, Scott Derrickson doesn't work out, but then they got to find some of the same vision. And I think this team, I trust them all with the multiverse stuff, but it is a good idea to do, because if we are going to get into, you know, dealing with What If, dealing with Toby and Andrew, dealing with any other Marvel franchise we've had before, maybe possibly coming in, or new ones, you do want everyone to be on the same page, so you don't have three people that pitch an idea to you and you go, well, that doesn't set with what we did, or then someone go, oh, well, what are we doing? So I'm much like he's done all phases so far. I don't really worry about any of that sort of stuff. Yes, of course, there's stuff like Endgame, and people go, oh, well, there's a time travel there versus Loki. Yeah, but I think also the stuff they do in Loki shows that things are changing. You can set rules, but the thing is, rules change. You know, the Hulk couldn't talk at one point and, you know, be a Professor Hulk, but now he can. You know, so it's the same thing. Anything else can change, but whatever the rules change to, you still want to be consistent. You don't want to just be like, hey, everyone has free range just to go nuts. So I trust them with this.
Yeah, you know, it seemed like they were trying to go for to see that Marvel Studios had established their own story group, kind of like what Lucasfilm had done with Star Wars, you know, kind of making sure that the canon is kept sacred at that point. So, you know, at the moment, it seems that Feige, Louis Esposito, who's the head of production, he's co-president, and then the head of production, Victoria Alonso, have the final say on what happens in the MCU. And I've seen, and you've seen it too, a lot of back and forth on Twitter regarding some of the recent stories that some of the directors, upcoming directors, are saying, oh, you know, got a lot of freedom, things like that. And people say, oh, well, Feige has this, that, and the other. And Brent, I think, called out something at that point and said, yeah, but they're all saying the same thing. So they're all lying, or they're basically saying, yeah, of course Kevin's going to have, it's, you know, he's the head honcho. He's going to, but it's no one's has yet come out and said, oh yeah, it's, I mean, if they want to work at that point, but when they're all saying the same thing, it's kind of hard to say. But again, either you like what they're doing or you don't. That's fine. Watch what you like. Don't watch what you don't want. You know?
Yeah, and I'm sure Clay will love this, but it's the same thing as a sports team, you know, of like, hey, you can come in and do all this
sports
stuff.
Ball. We're talking about sports ball.
We still need you maybe to hit these specific goals. And I think that's the thing at Marvel, where again, when I do believe, because I think this debate was sparked by Gunn, right? When he brought up like, oh, Feige's always in the editing bay. I take some of his notes. I don't take some of his notes. At Warner Brothers, no one was in the editing bay. Why does that just happen with James Gunn and a few other people? I don't know, but that's just how it happens. But people take that as like he can do whatever. I believe he can do whatever, because you can say, hey, Gunn can do whatever he wants, but then also then don't complain that Warner Brothers doesn't have a plan, because they are much more free in the sense of, yeah, they don't really have a plan right now. They're just kind of doing stuff, right? It's the same way as Joker can make, you know, Joker maybe the son of Bruce Wayne, or the son of Bruce Wayne, the brother of Bruce Wayne, all this stuff. yeah, you know, maybe one day. But that's thing where you are playing on, hey, we want to tell a cohesive story. We want a universe. You can't just break everything. But still, as far as the story, again, and that's why I get why people say certain things, but that's where I hate when they kind of put that on like, oh, they are boxed in. To me, for the biggest example is if you watch Black Panther and you've seen Ryan Coogler's work, he's all over that film. And I think it's kind of a disservice to be like, oh, well, that was all this. It's like, no, if you listen to Feige, most of that stuff that was in there about race and all this stuff was Coogler was pitching that, bringing it in. So I believe, I've always said that Feige, if he came to Chris and I and said, hey, you guys are going to direct Spider-Man 4, okay? These are the 5 things we need to happen, or maybe the 5 things that can happen. Everything else, go. And I feel like that's what they do a lot. And it's a weird, like I agree with Brent there, as far as it's a weird debate that we're still having, as far as, yeah, people have creative differences, but guess what? Every company's had creative differences. You know, how many directors has Star Wars gone through? How many problems has Warner Brothers with DC had? So it's just like, it's not an exclusive thing with Hollywood, as far as, hey, at the end of the day, Feige is like the, not owner of these properties, but he's the runner. So I'm excited for those. And I will say, because we were talking about inside there, talking about comments as far as working with the Loki team, I imagine everyone has listened to the show, but if you haven't listened to or go watch the Loki Assembled one, really good. Just
On my
as
to-do list.
yeah, as the top notch. I won't spoil anything, but just lots of fun. The only thing I was mini spoil is Tom Hiddleston narrates it, and that was just like a nice little touch of like, yeah, and
Nice.
it's exactly what I want as far as it's not just about the show, it's about Tom Hiddleston's whole time in the MCU and his career. And you literally see like, the first time he puts on his first like Thor suit. So that's what I, first of all, again, assembled, love it. They're doing, I think, one on just the Mandalorian season 2 finale, which is like awesome. Like do all this stuff. I love it. I love these journeys. So check that out. But yeah, just makes sense as far as what they've done before.
Yeah. The next thing he was talking about is talk about Julia Louis-Dreyfus' future and Val's mystery team. So when bringing it up, they basically asked, what's her deal? Feige said, she's doing something. Yeah, she is. She seems to be in recruitment mode. Does Yelena already work for her? They seem to have a connection at that point. Yes. And the future is bright for the MCU because Julia is in it. We are gigantic fans of her at Marvel. We had a general meeting with her many years ago. Luis Desposito and I really geeked out when we had our meeting with her because she's such an icon. We're very big Seinfeld nerds at Marvel Studios. So the notion of bringing her into the world was always something, if we could find the right thing, was something that we wanted to do. And when this role came about and the opportunity to have her in Black Widow and the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and maybe in some other things coming up, she was totally on board with it and really into it. So it's an amazing addition to the world. And I look forward to people being surprised by just where and when she will show up again. So,
yeah, it's interesting as far as him saying that. Now he can be a hype master and try and get some stuff going and everything like
will
that.
we
No
ever see her
hindsight,
dance?
not in the MCU. I hope not, but we'll see. We've heard rumors, and I think the obvious spot is okay, Hawkeye. But I think if he says surprising, I think he kind of knows that Hawkeye wouldn't be that surprising. Even if you didn't listen to the show, I think you'd be like, well, she was just in the end credit scene that was signed Hawkeye. It makes sense. It does get me interested though in the future. Where could she pop up as far as being surprising?
Mm-hmm.
I am still waiting for. We brought this up in our review. You guys brought up yours review. I'm still kind of waiting for her to just say like Thunderbolt. Like I'm just waiting for her to say that thing. But
Dark
I want to know.
Avengers.
Yeah, I want to know exactly what it is. I do think though, because you guys brought that up, if it is Dark Avengers, they will never say Dark Avengers. So that's why I think maybe that's why they're not saying it. They'll say it's Task Force A or something. But I think that.
Swing at DC.
She's a great addition, like we talked about during Falcon Winter Soldier. I was mixed on her end credit scene, but I'm excited for her to continue because I think she's proven over the years that she's not just Elaine. All those other actors from Seinfeld, they never broke out of their mold. Like they're all good people, but like Jerry was always Jerry. Kramer was still Kramer. Jerry Alexander was Jason was still Jason Alexander. But she's multiple times over had. She's like Madonna herself, like from the New Adventures of Old Christine to Veep. Like and now this. And I remember people brought this up when Falcon happened, but she had expressed interest in wanting to do some of these movies. And I think if an actor expresses interest and the Marvel team and even DC team sees that, they go, okay, what could we make it work for him? Look at the guy in our background, Mahershala Ali. There's a guy who wanted to play Blade. He took a meeting with Feige and like, yeah, let's do it. So if it's the right talent, they will, I won't say bend over backwards, but they'll do a lot to get him on the team, And Hines, I know Jerry played himself, but I just mean like, he's always just Jerry Seinfeld. He doesn't have, as far as who the greatest actor is out of that combination, it's for sure Julia. Like he does not have the range that she does, right? So yeah, of course, he'll always be the bigger star. But as far as what I value more, she's done so many different things. Where let's say Jerry Seinfeld's cast in the MCU, I'd go, you know what? I don't think this is a good call. But Julia Dreyfus, I go, you know what? She's very talented and she could do many things. So I'm excited to see her again and see what she's up to.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I think, I love I didn't watch a lot of New Adventures of Old Christine, but Veep, every episode just absolutely loved it. Had me on the floor laughing just because it was just her uncensored in that way. I love it at that point, and I think this is a very different actress. And you're right, her range is great. So I'm excited to see. Yeah, Hawkeye. It would be interesting to see. Surprising. Could it be Shang-Chi? Could it be, the end of Multiverse of Madness? I would like to see her. That is where I think her character will come into play in the sense of it's where we don't expect to see her. And I've come up with the idea with she may, sending Yelena after to go after her next target is Clint. Again, I'll go back to comic knowledge. Clint Hawkeye did lead the Thunderbolts for a time. And
Mhm.
so it also could be a test of recruitment as well. Not Yelena only knows part of what she needs to do.
Well, and
So
again, something like the multiverse madness. Now, I don't know how this would play, but it could be very much like Civil War, like, hey, all these things were happening. We need someone in check. And again, this is the biggest thing I keep saying. We still don't know the Avengers of the Avengers, right? Like, we
yep.
don't know the status of what's happening with that team. We could be living in a world right now where there are no Avengers. So she
Mm-hmm.
might have that pitch to the government, like, oh, yeah, we need the Avengers, the same way they pitched to John Walker being like, yeah, we need a Captain America, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. The other thing, because I don't know if it's in the notes, I wanted to bring up, I wanted to ask you on. They did that Black Widow watch on Feige. He answered some questions just
Mm-hmm.
talking about Yelena. He said, and I'm sure this will happen in Hawkeye, but someone asked, "Oh, was she dusted?" And he said that's something for another time, pretty much. He's like, "That's something that
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer here." Do you think she did get dusted? And do you think Hawkeye's where we learn about what happened in those 5 years with her?
I definitely think that Hawkeye will learn because he wouldn't have said that if we weren't going to find
Yeah.
out. If there was something we weren't going to find out at that point, he would have said it. It's got to play into it. So yeah, Hawkeye, was she dusted? I honestly don't know where I stand on that. I've gone back and forth. I just don't. I don't know, and I don't know. To me, it would be interesting the motivation of why, what it would mean to her, and I think I think if I lean somewhere, I might say she was dusted, and then
Mhm.
coming back and finding out that she couldn't save, her sister
Mhm.
is why it's even more painful.
Yeah, I lead to that she's dusted too, because I also think that I've said this before. As far as Endgame, it feels like Natasha's pretty down and out, and I always go like, well, she has this other family. Like, yeah, she's the Avengers, but why isn't she really concerned about them
Why
either?
why didn't she just go and get her sister at that point too?
Yeah,
So,
so that's why I also think that another layer is her and maybe that whole family, but
oh,
at least Elena was dusted, so she should have stayed dusted. If so, fanboy Clay with some, as we were calling nowadays, shit
he's not
takes. No, but
he's not a pew boy, I see.
no, he's not part of the Pew Boys. But no, I think she's dusted too, and I think that's also just like it sounds like a lame excuse, but it's also just the easiest way to be like, "Where's she been the past 5 years?" Well, she was not here. Like she was gone,
Kind
you
of
know.
like,
So
where's the Eternals?
well, no, they're cowards. You know, they're hiding out the whole time. They're making bonbons while the Thanos is popping off. But yeah, no, I agree. I think she's dusted too.
Yeah, as Bubs, yeah. Clay is anti pew boy,
Yeah,
yes.
he's like the symbiote. If me and Kirkland are the Pew Boys, he's like trying to get the Black Tar over us. Not today. Not today, I say, as Captain America said in 2012.
Yeah. So before we continue on we got two more things tied with Feige. Before we get into the news, we're going to take our first ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be sometimes a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So second to last story, we'll stick with the kind of the Black Widow. Feige got asked about, will we see David Harbour and Rachel Weisz back for a future project? And Feige plays politics and said, it is always the interaction that when characters come in and great gets as actors come into our universe. If we have a great time with them, the audience seems like they did, you always want to see them again. I think it's a safe bet that we definitely want that to happen. That's impressive for him to say that at that point. That's a pretty darn close to as a confirmation you're going to get from Feige.
I don't like it's not, but I took that as the reason he's so confident on it is because I think Harbour even said, like, oh, yeah, Marvel hasn't talked to me yet. I think it's all BS. I think they actually already have it planned where they're going to, because I think if it was, we know this with Marvel for a while, it was what's going to happen. Like, you know, where's Red Skull? Where's Abomination? As Luke Skywalker said, no one's ever really gone. But the thing is, they just got to wait for when's the right story, right? I'm still sitting here every day thinking about when's Justin Hammer coming back. I hope it's Armor Wars. You've said that before, and I hope you're right on that. I think that'd be perfect. Even if he's not the main villain, just in that world. I think he's been that Twitter fed through the movie, multiple interviews. He said, yeah, he's talked about like, oh, I'd love to see him and Captain America fight, all this stuff. I think they know exactly where they're going to pop up. I think I've said this before, and we talked about this, how there were these tracks in the MCU. It looks like the space and multiverse and time travel track are forming. I think there's going to be a big like human earthbound track like we've talked about before, and that could be Dark Avengers, Thunderbolts, whatever it may be. I think that they will. They already know where that's coming. Even if that's, I've said this before too. People kind of jump over it. I think Black Widow 2, even though Black Widow 1, it's tough because COVID. If they make a second one with Yelena, boom, it's right there. And Heinz says, Kevin Feige saying if their audience shows they like something, that they will give them more of that. How refreshing. Yeah, who else doesn't do it? Well, Heinz, people really like John Cena. You're gonna Peacemaker series, so there you go.
Everyone gets what they want. Everyone wanted that Peacemaker series.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Ask me after the movie and see. Yeah, ask me after the movie though, and we'll say again. But they're he's been so non-coy about it. They are coming back and good. I like them both.
It's just hosting a DC show. I don't know what that's like.
One day, maybe Discovery will be that hero, you know?
one day. Fanboy Clay, yes, for real. All right, last bit of kind of quote unquote news that Feige was dropping. He got asked about Emily Van Camp's future as the power broker. He says, well, the power broker has been revealed. And what was fun about that is, again, Emily is a spectacular actor, and we haven't seen her for a long time. She got the short end of the stick when it came to the events of Captain America and Civil War. She was sort of left out in the cold. And it's interesting on how she evolves, and where she goes, obviously, remains to be seen. But the response in the response to Madripoor and to her as the power broker was really great, and the future is going to continue for that. So
okay, me and Kevin Feige, we get our monthly dinners like we have here. I respect the man, so I don't want to step on my shoes, but I push back on the power broker having a great reception. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was like Taskmaster where it had all these like hit pieces and I'm not a fan of Taskmaster, but it was this big thing. Like the day the movie came out, the next day Taskmaster was trending, and you've clicked on that trend. It was not good things for Taskmaster. I think with Power Broker, much like when you were talking about it, I was like, right, they did that. And I think the reception to me was lukewarm at best. I think season 2, they need to really not rehab that, but bring that up a level. Because when you were saying that, I'm like, yeah, that did happen. Out of all the Disney Plus shows, other than maybe Tyler Howard or Hayward, I'm already forgetting his name. That to me was like I guess we all saw it coming, so it was kind of lackluster. But Emily Van Camp is a good actress. I will ask you, because it's so funny, because I haven't talked to your Brent about this as far as, and I'm going to address that Henry Cavill one in a second.
But I like that. Salvo Sanchez, Henry Cavill, Captain Britain versus Red Guardian.
Oh, bring it. Even though everyone knows I want Henry Cavill as Wolverine, Henry Cavill, I'm not going to believe those, Sun UK things yet, but man, I want him to have a meeting. But my question to you is, so it's funny because you and I had been covering, we started Marvel Alliance over a year ago, and we had talked about like WandaVision. There's no rumors of season 2, but for Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki, there was rumors of season 2 for both of them. Loki did get a season 2 confirmed, but we've heard nothing about Falcon. The thing was with Falcon, it's like, were those rumors just actually about the movie they were producing, that stuff thing? So where do you think we see her again? Because again, we have there might be that Disney Investor Day. Maybe they announced it there, but do you think we are getting a season 2 announced? Could this be folded into the movie? Like, what are your thoughts upon this, like a few months later?
I would say we know Captain America movie with Sam taking over the mantle is happening at that point. I think the idea of I think we're going to get a spiritual successor to the series in the fact looking up with Bucky. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where our Nomad rumors started coming into play a little bit. So I think some of these rumors are true, but it's not. I know we've heard in the sense of, it's going to be the Falcon and it's going to be Captain America and stuff. I was like, Captain America, the journey for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier was great. I hesitate now to think that Sam Wilson as Captain America will probably not be leading another TV show. He's gone on to the movies at that point, but Bucky can live in both worlds very easily. And finding, and that would be an interesting journey to have a show focused with Bucky surrounding as the successor to the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that comment Fanboy Clay Chan, I'm definitely going to address because I've not even thought about that, and that was very well done. So we're going to address that in a second, because if you're watching the live video, I literally it's interesting because I think Falcon Winter Soldier definitely made Bucky higher, like put him up a few tiers. And I think people like Sebastian Stan a bit more. I know I do in that role. I do wonder if like Nomad, Winter Soldier, like alone, can he carry a show? And I know people be like, well, look, Miss Marvel's getting her own show. I know that, but it's just still like, I feel like they're very selective of who they want. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder, would it still be compared with somebody? And if not, if it is him, then okay. But It is strange for me to be, because I still have the theory that they will do something else with Scarlet Witch and Vision, even if it's called Scarlet Witch and Vision. I just feel like I don't know if Nomad, or let's just say Bucky in general, I think you might need a little more panache with another character or something
Which
for
is
that
fine.
show. Yeah.
I would be fine with that. I'm just saying, like, I think the show will be more centered on Bucky than anything
Mhm.
else. So if they want to do Bucky and the Winter Soldier and something else, yeah, sure, go for it.
I'm just trying to think who would I place in that role as far as Bucky and someone else, but I wonder if it's as simple as we were just talking about, some characters, Yelena, Red Guardian, certain people popping out there. I'm just trying to think, but hey,
My contemporary sidekick. I love you. Have you?
well, yeah, and he can talk. They can bond over their Russian roots and everything like that and stuff like that. But
Yes.
yeah, so obviously, so people are talking about Henry Cavill in the chat here. So we'll just address quickly. This is not in
Yep.
the news, but there was like, so Sudden UK put out the story, and people have said like at times they're like, we got this covered for the UK. But the thing is, we've heard this a few times. Do I actually believe it's happened? No, I'd like to happen as far as Henry Cavill talking to Marvel or Feige and the team. But Fanboy Clay put in Doctor Doom. I've never thought about that in my life. And Fanboy Clay, I think you have a really good casting. Would I want over my Wolverine one? No. But the reason why I'm actually maybe a bit more fine if I think about it, I think him playing a villain in the MCU would be a very good route to go. Because someone had shut out like Hyperion, there's no chance, in my opinion, because I feel like Henry Cavill loves the character Superman too much to play like a knockoff of it. I really don't think he would do that unless he's in Deadpool. I don't think so. I just also think Captain Britain is just too
On the nose.
it's way too on the nose, and I also don't think he'd want to play as like a almost less like a knockoff of Captain America. So Doctor Doom, that would be phenomenal because he could play a good villain. I would be so down for that. Like Victor Von Doom is kind of what people have said, like the anti Tony Stark, right? He's charismatic, he's a good looking guy, he's billionaire, philanthropist. So like Henry Cavill doing evil, Tony Stark, whatever. Sign me up. I'm just wanting more Henry Cavill as far as in general. So that's a great one, Clay. I'll give you that point, even though you have terrible takes about Florence Pugh.
I mean, spoiler alert for Mission Impossible Fallout. 3, 2, 1. He played an outstanding bad
Yes.
guy in Fallout. So the man, again, Superman, one of my favorite interpretations. Mission Impossible, The Witcher. He has a lot of range. He has a lot to offer. If we don't see him as Superman again, it's going to be it's definitely a sad moment. But he's got a lot more to give, and obviously he's not hurting for roles. So
no.
So it'd be good. So that's all the Kevin Feige chat. But I'm going to let you take the first news story from this one, as you said. Our background, our gifs, our hints of what we're going to be also spending some time on is we got the Blade news we've been waiting a little while on.
Yeah, so like if you think about it, you and I talked about it a few times, like when we're gonna get Blade, what's gonna happen, and everything like that. And it'd been like, what is it now, 2 years ago since that Comic-Con has come out where Mahershala had the hat. And it was funny because I want to really get behind the walls one day and question, like, as far as the story has been told, Mahershala, like we said earlier, had a meeting with Feige, said this is what I want to do, and they did it. What I think Blade was maybe in the cards, but was in the cards that early, I don't know. But that's where it was a sense of we're sitting around waiting around because they just announced, hey, Mahershala is playing Blade. We don't have a movie, we don't have a writer, we don't have a script, but they had a writer. We talked about that a few months ago, but now they have a director. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, they did. Yeah. No, they did. Yep.
Yeah, so they have that, and now they have a director by the name of Bassam Tariq. Now, this guy, he's done a lot of short films. He's only done one other film that I wanted to try and watch, but work on the way before this. It's called Mogul Mowgli, and I can't remember. It's like, dang it, I'll look it up when you're talking, but it's very character driven. It got lots of praise and stuff like that. I think the thing was that, not that it was not a big sentiment, but people are like, oh, that's like a surprising pick. Like, we don't really know him and whatnot. Would I've liked a sexy pick? Like, he's not doing it, but like someone like a Jordan Peele or something like that, or the way Ryan Coogler was. Yeah, because if you have like a big touchstone to someone's previous work, like when Black Panther announced that Ryan Coogler was there, I was like, man, my excitement went all like as high as it could get. This guy, I've not seen his work. He's only done one feature film, but I think the sentiment that I have is like some others do, but the people that I just think have to remember, Feige's done this, I'd almost say the majority of times. Sure, you got your your John Favreau's, you got your Shane Blacks, you got your Ryan Coogler, stuff like that. But even look at someone like James Gunn. He had done Slither before, like the Russo brothers. I was saying this crispy forecast when they got rid of Joe Johnson or whatever, they parted ways and they got the Russos. I'm like, oh, this is not a good call. Like they're getting the guys who did Community. Like, why are they doing Captain America? But they have a system where they like to give up and coming directors a shot. But also, I think it works as well because some people do want to play ball. I'm sure this guy's not going to complain. The story, all we've heard so far is just that he had a great pitch and Marvel loved it. So
Yeah.
I trust Feige, so I trust this guy's the right call. I will, before Blade, watch this movie. I did that with Chloe Zhao with her stuff before Eternals. Obviously, Nomadland came out. I do that just say, okay, like, what are some of their sensibilities and stuff? But what gets me excited is just it's happening and we're getting closer to it.
Yeah, I know Marvel had been considering with Blade in particular the idea of writer and director being the same person, but when they hired OC Kafour to pen the script, so since her hiring, doing a little digging into this, Marvel started having meetings in March that went through June. Those made the final cut, they said, made their final pitches at that point, and in the end, it was Tariq's vision that ultimately won him over. So this marks the sixth person of color to direct a movie for Marvel, joining Ryan Coogler, Chloe Zhao, Destin Critton, Taika Waititi, and Nia DaCosta, who has been the most recently named director of the Captain Marvel sequel, The Marvels. So Feige's made it a mission in recent years to diversify not only the cast in front of the camera, but also behind as well. Again, I really don't want to get into this debate in the sense of you hire the right person for it. That's a debate. I'm just not really interested in having it and nor need to at this point. But with this one at that point, Mashar Ali is very much involved and wants to have his say on it. And I think he's earned it, having 2 Oscars to his name. He's an outstanding actor. And if he wants to have some sort of say in this, I say let him in. They've got an outstanding writer. A director. Yes, I have not seen that film either, but I'm always telling everyone, saying, let's wait and actually see what happens before we pass judgment on, oh my gosh, they're casting a nobody. Like you just said, how many different quote unquote nobodies or ones without a lot of credits to their name have swung it out of the park. So this is important for, Marvel Studios and the MCU, because this is a property that's already been done before. So they need to put their stamp on it. And if rumors that we've talked about on this show before is, with Moon Knight coming out,
yes,
this is another step in the direction. Is this going to be another step in the direction towards Midnight Suns? I say very much yes. S Bubs in the chat saying, do you guys think Ali will be an EP? I think definitely.
Absolutely.
Very much so. I
think there's
that's
even
a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, EVP for sure. There might even be a chance he was a producer too. Like the way Ryan Reynolds was on Deadpool, right? He's not EVP Ryan Reynolds. He's a producer. Now I know you have all the other chain of Marvel, but same thing. Mahershala Ali just has the thing is, like, he has a respect in acting community because he's great. Whatever you want to feel about the Academy Award, sure, but having 2, that's a big achievement. All counts, and most people just talk about how respected he is as far as being a good guy, working really hard, talented guy. He's just someone you want on the team. I don't care whatever you say. That was a big coup for them to get. It really was. Like when he walked on stage, it didn't matter who he was playing. If he would have been playing Squirrel Girl's father, I would have been like, man, they got the best. Like people know me if they're longtime listeners. I do legitimately think Adam Driver is the best actor in the world right now. I have Mahershala at number 2, and I could easily make a case for number 1. Mahershala is just like a chameleon. I think if his pitch got this film made, yeah, it's an EP. And yeah, you're highlighting that comment Clay put. So this is equivalent of Yan over Warner Brothers experience wise. I would say so, as far as making kind of a independent darling. And this is what I was going to say. It's a British Pakistan rapper, is on the cusp of his first world tour, but is struck down by an illness that threatens to derail his big break. Again, I never heard this movie, but even when I did read that, I'm like, okay, at least when I do the homework, I'm interested in this movie. And the lead is by the great Riz Ahmed, who, yes, he was in Venom. Not good there, not his fault, but like, I think the other thing is that I hate one narrative of, like we were talking about before, is like, oh, it's a newer director so they can boss around. Yeah, okay, you can have that. There's definitely some truth to that, right? If you have James Cameron, they're gonna push back. Someone like Edgar Wright, right? But at the same time, where I think people don't really give the credits or the directors credit for who agree to be on this stuff. If this guy makes this Blade movie with Mahershala and knocks it out of the park, this guy's stock rises so much. You know how much
Mm-hmm.
of his name power becomes a big thing. Now here's the other counterbalance. I really like Captain Marvel. That movie made $1 billion. It did not have, I think, the staying power with the general audience or big Marvel fans because those directors, their career didn't really skyrocket, right? Nothing really huge happened for them. So yeah, there's a give and take. But to me, it's just like if he had a great pitch, he wants to do it. I'm excited for it. And he says, I saw one Sanchez says, I feel like we might see Marshall's Blade before the actual film. You and I have talked about that a long time, and I'm on the camp of well, okay, here, this is because I put this in the headline. I want to ask you, does this not confirm, but how do you feel about this film coming out in 2023? Because you, me, and Brent have talked about this before, where there is one film that is in 2023, but it's not slated as far as it doesn't have a title on it. It's just like untitled Marvel movie, right? And it's like we've talked about before. The last two, there's one I think in like the fall and then the summer, and we've been back and forth like which one's Fantastic Four and which one's this mystery movie. And it's always been like, is this Deadpool or Blade? I would feel like if this director's hired, you're gonna get like possibly more writers, you're going to get casting, stuff like that. If it's hired now, I feel like they should be possibly shooting 2022, right?
Yeah.
But where are you on this?
No, I say that Mr. Movie. I've been pretty firm. I believe it's Blade at that point. And fanboy Clay saying where we show up Moon Knight. I think Moon Knight's a perfect opportunity to have him make a cameo appearance or make reference to or see it at that point. S Bub's saying Moon Knight or the Multiverse of Madness. I don't see anywhere else. Yeah, that's a good one. If neither of those, he won't show up before. So a lot of people saying Multiverse of Madness. Definitely. But yeah, I say now that we have a director, they're going to start hitting into the high gear with casting. Writing's already happened. Deadpool. Yeah, we know we have writers. I don't think we have named a director for it at this point. So I still think that's a little far away. And again, I'm okay with that. That's fine. We've got a lot going on here. I'm not, I understand your point of view that it could still fall through, but I think there's a lot outside of, the the Inhumans that did fall through in that sense. They haven't had a big whiff, and I'd say that'd be a pretty big whiff to drop Deadpool. But again, we're not talking about that right now. I love that they've stuck to their guns on giving persons of color the opportunities that they getting the face time that they have, and that they've noticed even for one major film that he has done that I want to talk to that person. I want to see what they have. They say they have something interesting. Let me at least hear it. What's the worst that can happen? I really like it. And guess what? They did.
Well, and that's the thing, like, if you hear about like how Feige and Tom Hiddleston talk about Kate Haring, who I'm disappointed as right now not coming back for season 2, but hey, she had a great pitch and she got the job. I didn't know who Kay Haring was before.
Neither
I do now, though, right? And that's the thing where a pitch all matters. So I don't really have that worry of like, yeah, again, if it would have been a bigger name, I'd have a bigger gauge, but it's also just, okay, up and coming director. We'll see. I will state, just because I only come on here monthly for Marvel Alliance, I am more in the positive camp of I think Deadpool's happening after that Korg one. You guys talked about that last week, and you check out me and Kirkland talk about Geek Verse 2 as far as I do feel like, okay, that's a good sign. S Buzz brought a good point because I was gonna shoot it down as far as I think Mahershala is too big to be in Moon Knight. I really for his first appearance, I'll be clear about that. I think his first appearance, you want boom, here we go, Mahershala Ali. I think Multiverse of Madness could work, and not even just because like, oh yeah, the scariness, the horror factor. I just think because that is going to be potentially such a big event film. That's where I see you debuting a Mahershala Ali. The same way you debuted Black Panther in Civil War, this huge, like pretty much an Avengers level film in there to get people excited. I think Moon Knight would be very cool. I think you would hear mentions of Blade or Blade characters, maybe like Whistler, but like I think actual Mahershala Ali, I feel like you save that for his own solo movie or the big, like, okay, this is Doctor Strange is maybe $1 billion movie. Here's the debut. So I'll push back
Yeah.
against the Disney Plus stuff. I think possibly Multiverse Madness. If not, yeah, I could see. The good thing is, I don't think you have to debut him anywhere, and that hype just builds because of Mahershala Ali as Blade. Because this fan art that we have behind you, this was made, but there are so many made before. He is very much like Rosario Dawson with that Ahsoka Tano casting, where it's like, man, wouldn't this be great if it happened? And you just look at it, you're like, yeah, but they'll probably never do it, right? It's a pipe dream. And when Mahershala got that, it's like, wow, they really did it. So he kind of sells the movie himself. So yeah, it's interesting. But I agree with you that I think this is the 2023 movie if they're hiring this director now. We had heard places like Charles Murphy, Multiverse of Madness, hint that production could start Q1, Q2 of next year. So I'm very excited if that is the case.
Yeah, I understand that. And I would agree, not saying he would be above doing a Disney Plus show, but for this character, what they're trying to build towards it in a very different direction for the MCU at that point. Yeah, you definitely need that big screen moment. I think we'd take our next commercial break just because this next one regarding Marvel and animation, I know we've got a number of questions that need to be answered. So we're going to take our second ad break, listeners. Again, these ads keep the lights on to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So I see we got something highlighted. My prediction is at 100% that we see a vampire in the Multiverse of Madness from S-Bubs. Yeah, sure. Bring it.
Yeah, if we're jumping through a bunch of multiverses, I could definitely see a vampire. We've had them mentioned twice in Loki and now and then Thor Ragnarok too. So, and the other part I was going to bring when someone brought up about Mahershala Ali getting the EP credit. Hiddleston got that on the show as well too, right? Yeah. So that's becoming, and actually I forgot about this, Johansson got on Black Widow as well too. So it's becoming a lot more common now because if you listen to the story, Johansson was a big proponent of getting Kate Shortland. So I think he's a lock for that.
Yeah. So, all right. So Marvel, we got What If coming up on August 11th. So we got that coming up. We've heard a lot of kind of drops about we got a season 2 pretty much almost de facto confirmed and dropping into where's Marvel doing with more animation. So Marvel Studios Executive Vice President Victoria Alonso sat down with Variety to discuss Marvel Studios' efforts on What If, the MCU's first fully animated project debuting, as I said, August 11th. Alonso revealed that Marvel Studios is going to have its animation branch and mini studio, noting that there will be more to come from this new Marvel branch as well. Calling animation her first love, Alonso expressed that the studio is super excited about animation moving forward. So we've got our official confirmation. Marvel, as I said in the title of it, Marvel is starting to get back to being serious about animation. I think we've now got even more confirmation with a lot of rumors that What If seems to be now more connected to the MCU than just kind of an anthology kind of, let's see what these films would have been like, especially with the end of Loki. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what directions, I've had a couple of Factor fictions about animation and them coming back. So I love seeing this idea. What do you feel? How do you feel about now Marvel Studios getting serious again about animation?
So I think What If helps. They probably did that, had a great idea, having fun on it. Disney Plus, that helps as far as we need content. But for everything maybe the past 10 years they've done wrong, I think Sony did one great thing, or one of the best things ever, which was Spider-Verse. And I do think that is a big proponent of why they're doing this. I think they saw that and were inspired. And like I said, I'm sure they've done What If, Disney Plus needs content, all these other ideas. But I think Spider-Verse really got the ball going of, hey, there's a market here we're kind of completely missing. We're not even touching it. The same way as far as, yeah, you might not love all the games that have come out so far, but now that instead of being, hey, we're going to be with one company, it's like you got the Avengers game, you got the Guardians game, you got the Spider-Man game. Not all of them are going to hit. Look at Avengers, but then look at Spider-Man, right? Lots of game of the year. So similar like movies. I think they realize, hey, this is untapped potential. And I think there's so much, whether it is like What If's doing connected to MCU, whether it is even just more kids stuff or stuff like Our Children, if it is a big, theatrical movie, I think it is a market that's been severely underserved because if you look at DC, who has such a great lineage in animation, Marvel should have that as well with the resources they have. They were great in the 90s. You look at Spider-Man, especially X-Men, held as maybe the gold standard of animation as far as superhero stuff. they should be doing it, and they got great teams and creates more jobs, which is good for people. But I'm all there. Like, give me the animation, especially because I just there's just lots of routes that can take it.
Yeah, Subbone Sanchez saying Avengers Arena as anime. Fanboy Clay saying Marvel Animation. I need another Iron Man animated show with that epic 90s guitar riff theme. Yep, definitely. So I know Travis Hines is in the chat, but he threw us a number of questions because being the host of Super Discussions focused on animation, what better way? And I know him and Joe talked a little bit about this news on their show this week. So, but he's got some questions. He's really excited about hearing this news. So, first question is, will this be connected to the MCU as a whole, with Kevin Feige actually paying attention and caring, or will it be like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other Marvel shows where they reference the MCU, but the MCU acts like they all have been snapped? My feeling is, I think first we're going to see what happens with What If. Our theories right now are first that this is definitely more connected with what the end of Loki reveals, where we head into Multiverse of Madness. I think there may be some shows. My prediction is there will be some one or two shows that have MCU connections and are directly connected. I think there are other shows, and I'm completely fine with animated shows that have absolutely nothing to do with the MCU and just getting characters an opportunity. And you know what happens sometimes when a character really takes off? Hey, guess what? Maybe we might give them a proper MCU introduction with those winks and nods to that alternate multiverse thing at that point. So I think it's going to be a little bit of both. And I think that's really cool of the opportunity to have animated shows that have an impact and are connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I echo pretty much the exact same sentiments that you do, that I think it will connect. I don't think it would be in a way where they're like, you got to watch Captain Marvel before Infinity War. I don't think they'd have anything as massive as that. But what if you just took something as simple? I know they're working on it at Hulu, but Howard the Duck from the MCU, and it's in that world, but it's Little Adventures, right? Or what we talked about before when I said, maybe a Rock and Groot show. Some people said, oh, that could be expensive. Well, what if that's what you do? What if you do a prequel series, much like how they do prequel comics that tie into the movies, the TV shows, but it's their adventures before and it's still canon, so they refer to it. I think that. I don't think in a big way, but I also think there's stuff that would be outside universe, and I think I want that too. I don't need it to be in a bubble. I agree with you too with your very first statement as far as let's see what If does, and then we'll go from there. I think even then, like, you could do What If, and let's say Captain Carter, which I know there's some rumors. I have some stuff to say about them, fact or fiction, but like, even just an animated series. Let's say people really like the episode. You know what? Let's order 10 episodes of an animated Captain Carter show, and it's on Disney Plus, and it's like kind of connected to the MCU, but not really, because it's What If. And I feel like you could get a lot of that as far as, Ultimates or something like that. So I think it's a mixture, but I think they would go with whatever a good pitch is, But like I said, I don't think they're gonna be like, okay, and now Avengers 5 is animated. Here we go. Like,
you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. You didn't see this coming, did you?
Yeah, like, I think their main eventers would be safe still for animation as far as progressing it forward, but prequels, sure.
Yeah. Heinz in the chat, could we get any of these What If worlds branching off to its own show?
Well,
possibly. Again, we're going to be seeing exactly. There's 2 seasons. We're going to get 20 plus episodes, so 10 episodes in this first season. So I wrote that. Then Snell said it. So his next,
and look at Heinz. He sent you questions in advance, and then he's sending more questions in. He's just an animation fiend.
Yeah, exactly. Said, could we get new characters from these animated properties that make their way? Oh, there we go. To the MCU, comparable to. Okay, I see where he's going. Animated properties that make their way into the Marvel MCU canon, comparable to Harley Quinn on DC, debut in Batman the Animated Series. Now it's a big name in live action. Why don't you take this one first?
Well, there's a little character named Wolverine right now, Laura Kinney, who people might not know this, but she debuted in X-Men Evolution. Now, of course, I think Heinz is saying, like, they create a Marvel show, that character gets created, and then it goes to the MCU. Absolutely. I think Chris already said that if a character takes off, whether it's someone they've created or not, money is money at the end of the day when it comes down to the business situation. I think it's the same way as far as there's one line in the Loki Assembled thing where he's just like, they're talking about Loki and Tom Hiddleston when he went on stage of Comic-Con and everyone was cheering, this big reaction, and he sat down with Feige and he's like, yeah, you're going to be around for a lot longer. And I think at the end of the day, they make good quality choices. They go with the best story, but it's a business, right? The same way
Mhm.
about Hines and Clay, or especially Clay, when he's like, we don't need a Joker 2. We don't need a Joker 2, but Warner Brothers needs that money and they want that money. And that's where it comes down to it. So at the end, they have a characters popping, trending, selling merch. Yes, Marvel, or at least the MCU, hasn't done too much lately as far as like in the MCU. I don't think there's many characters that they just kind of created. They've been pretty comic book accurate as far as not
Or
maybe.
or amalgamations of a
Yes.
couple of characters into one.
Yeah, so that's a tough thing. It's like if I see a MCU animated show, would they do like a Harley Quinn or Laura Kinney? It's tough because they have such a pocket worth of characters that they could pull from, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I agree. I agree definitely with that. Last question he has regarding this. What do you think about an animated show with Tobey Maguire voicing Spider-Man, filling in the gaps between Spider-Man 3 and No Way Home, if he's in that movie? You take this one. I know you're the biggest Toby fan at that point. I'm not saying I'm not. I just know you definitely win that argument.
Oh, I love Toby. Toby's my guy. Even though I do think Tom Holland is the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Toby, just the meme machine, great. I love that red dish of Peter Parker. Um, I think that one's tough because it's just you, me, and Brent have talked about that. It's like, what is the legality of? We see that Spider-Man, Tom Holland is in What If, but could they just full announce, hey, we're doing a show? Now, what he proposes, though, you couldn't do a show, I don't think, of Toby unless Sony give the clear head, because that to me is a Sony creation in a sense, as far as it's their universe. So I don't think I think Sony would be pretty pissed if they announced an animated Marvel show with Toby and it's like, you guys didn't even talk to us. Like, even if they legally could do that, I don't know.
Well,
But
we'll pause on that. I think
yeah,
Sony has also spoken out of turn a number of times when Feige just has those big eyes saying, "What did
that's
you
true.
just say?"
That's true. So if everyone was all down, it could work. Absolutely. I think what if I still think you do that all as far as the X-Men, the Fantastic Four. We talk about this all the time, the image of those earlier movies being the same universe. Yeah, it's the same way as Batman 89 right now getting a comic book. I'm always down to revisit old territory because there's a fan base there for people like myself and many others that love those Toby movies or the Andrew movies, like,
Yep.
sure, do it,
Yeah. So, but thank you, Hans, for sending those questions. I appreciate you letting us take some time in here to talk about animation as well. Last story. This came out last week. We kind of punted it just because we had other things.
Yeah, just a little
But
week.
this is from the hashtag show. Now, I think you like doing your rankings of kind of the scoopers and blog. Where do you put the hashtag show?
They're like, I would honestly give them a C plus. They are higher up, like I've said before. Deadline, Variety, and or not the Wrap. Deadline, Variety, and Hollywood Reporter. Those were like the A plus S tier. Wrap and Collider, they're like, or like Joe Blow, they're like in the B tier. Hashtag Show puts out stuff, and they're right for the most part. Everybody misses a scoop here and there, but yeah, they're definitely a C plus tier. So when they say something, I do trust them a little more because I think the good thing is they're not. I don't think they're really scoopers. They just hear stuff and then they put it out. It's very much like some people might not like it here, but like a John Campea. Now, whatever you think about his opinions, whatever you think about his scoops, he doesn't put out many scoops, but when he does, like, you got to give him credit. He was the very first person to say Ben Affleck's not directing the Batman, and that didn't happen, right? And everyone, and I, as someone that did watch Collider back then, the comments were filled with people shitting on him as far as being like, oh, this isn't right, but he was the first. So I think it's that tier where they don't say stuff, but when they do, it's right. As Bub says, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and we got this kind of most reliable. Yeah, how could I forget? We got this covered as the S plus tier. I completely forgot about that. But
S plus, as in other words, we could call them.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so what was this rumor, Chris? That they
yeah, revolving around Miss Marvel's power set at that point. So they said there's two things they actually they exclusively reveal from their sources. Say we can share that Disney Plus series Miss Marvel is changing up Kamala Khan's story, which we were all kind of wondering what they were going to do because the Inhumans don't exist in this world. For many reasons. In this new series, she'll be blasted by a bolt of energy, and this will give her some magical powers. That's right, Miss Marvel will technically be a magic user. Her abilities are more or less going to be the same, but this time stemming from magic and not the Terrigen or Inhuman-based technology. Kamala will be blasted by a bolt of energy from the bracelet she wears, and those will give her powers. It's unclear if the bracelets need to be worn for her to have her powers, or if it's just one of those one-time things providing the powers. This makes sense. Again, Kevin Feige's had absolutely no love for the Inhumans. This was part of the feud between him and Ike Perlmutter, and then the convoluted X-Men ride. So this, that, and the other. But they also exclusively reveal that the main villain will be Kamran. In the comics, he is a friend of Kamala and a morally corrupted Inhuman. Like Kamala, he will not be an Inhuman, but he will be wanting the bracelets that Kamala has, which is not a confirmation, but indicates to me, to them at that point, that the bracelets are a source of her powers if they're something he's pursuing. So I know you had some thoughts. What are your thoughts on this, not only the origins, but this focus on these bracelets?
I'm of two minds here because I always thought when people are like, well, Kamala Khan is coming, so that must mean the humans coming, right? I went, let's pump the brakes a little bit. I just think one, like that saying there, I don't think Feige was the biggest fan because here's your food analogy. It's like if you get a pizza with your loved one and they really like a certain topping and you're fine with it, but you really wouldn't want it on your pizza, but because you're with them, like, sure, we'll get the olives. And then you don't eat the olives, you pick them off, but you could still taste that olive residue. It's just gross. That's what the Inhumans was like for Kevin Feige, where it's like, yeah, okay, we'll make this show, but like I don't want to make a movie and stuff. And then I think it was kind of forced upon them. So I never bought that, oh, the Inhumans coming. I'm somebody, I'll be completely out there. I do not like the Inhumans as far as I've never found them that interesting. I've read a little bit. As I subscribe to a lot of other people do that, they just got more prompt up because, oh, we don't want to promote the X-Men. So here we go. And it just felt way too forced for me and never a big fan other than Lockjaw. He's a fucking boss. But anyways, so that I did not buy that. I don't mind this. If I think in the show they'll make it better. This whole idea of a lightning bolt hitting her and stuff sounds all goofy, sounds very kiddie, but maybe they'll make it work.
Kind of flashy, if you were.
100%. Yeah, Barry, what'd you do?
Damn it, Barry, you did it again.
I do not
lightning sabers. Come on.
Oh boy, yeah. Let's cover that one on DC Alliance this week, folks. I do not like the bracelets idea. I would like. I'm hoping her powers are internal. I don't want it to be because I feel like that's a crutch. Another thing that I don't like the web shooters that are built because anytime in the story there's like, oh, my web shooters are wet. It's just a lazy crutch that it goes, okay, we need Peter Parker to lose this fight. What's going to happen? His web shooters don't work. Oh, okay. That's what I worry about the bracelets. Anytime in a fight or the movie, the show, like, oh, one slipped off, one got taken off. I'm not the biggest fan of it reading it. Once I see it, maybe I'll change. I think Brent said that in the chat where it's like, I'll judge it when I see it. But if I'm going off this rumors, I'm a 50-50 on some stuff I like. The Inhuman stuff, fine, get rid of it. The bracelets, I don't know. But I'm sure if this show's a hit, they can sell a whole lot of bracelets. So maybe, you know what? As far as the marketing machine. Yeah, as far as marketing machine, get Baby Yoda. I went into Toys R Us the other day. I know you guys don't have it anymore, but I went into our Toys R Us.
I think they're coming back here.
Oh, they're coming back.
I think they're out of bankrupt. They're trying to rebrand themselves from what I heard.
Good for them. Hopefully. I love that. I'm still waiting for KB Toys to come back. But there is so many baby, like I know people know this, but like there's just so much Baby Yoda stuff. So you know what? If it works and little girls love Miss Marvel and want these bracelets, then hey, makes sense to me. Where are you on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I want to kind of see, hearing bracelets at that point, I said, okay, yes, you're right. If the villain is pursuing it, there's something to these bracelets if their source is correct at that point. So, I'm kind of with S-Bubs right now in the sense of as long as their power is in Bigning, I'll accept the origin. Again, I'm it's interesting. I knew they were going to have to figure out something to not do the Inhumans. And so this might be the easiest way. Fanboy Clay says, is this still just a big FU to Loeb so he doesn't get satisfaction of getting the Inhumans on the big screen? No, I just think that Feige had no control over this, hated all Ike Perlmutter, and I know, Loeb has had some little controversies going on around him. I think this is just him. He doesn't like the Inhumans, didn't like the way they were done. He wants nothing to do with them, and this is a way for him to get rid of it.
And like I would, and this might not be the case. Maybe he gets asked in interviews differently, but like I'm sure whether it's Marvel, DC, Star Wars, whatever it may be, I don't expect a runner of something to like every single character because that would feel kind of weird. Like I love them all. Like there's characters in the Marvel universe, DC universe that I don't care for, or they're just not my cup of tea. And I think yeah, not my tempo. And I feel like that could be the Inhumans for Feige, but it's also like Chris brought up. I think also just them being forced on, and also look at Charlie Cox. If he comes back Daredevil, you know what also helps? The fact that people really love that show. The fact that they still did Inhumans and it's looked upon as one of the more like lower spots, not one of like maybe top three, top five of like as far as show qualities for Marvel. I'm sure he's not rushing to bring that back. You know, he's
Yeah.
like, you got to let that stink get off a little bit. Where Charlie Cox is Daredevil, he has no stinks. He smells like a flaming young, you know. Iron Fist, yeah, you know what? You might be sitting back a little bit. You know, I
Yeah,
like Iron Fist, but
we'll let Shang-Chi have the fist at this point. We'll do that.
yeah.
Fanboy Clay's got a great one again. Marketing Disney
Mm-hmm.
World Fast Pass bracelets, Marvel themed at that
Yep.
point. That's great. You're right, S Bubs. If the actor that is supposedly playing this character, yes, definitely has been seen on set. Um, in all
And
seriousness, having the Avengers, X-Men, and the Humans in comics is manageable. We'll put that in quotes, I think. Having all three in the movie universe, I agree. Definitely for right now, it's not saying the general audience can't handle it and understand it. I think you're right. They have a lot of moving parts. Let's take one big property at a time. And Inhumans is way down the line, in my opinion.
yeah, and one point about as Buzz bring up, that's why I do give the the hashtag show a bit more credit, is because lots of scoops. They sometimes put out casting stuff, but most of it is stuff like this, where it's stuff you could easily found from a script or a call sheet or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Hugh Jackman's it's and okay, we might have heard something like that, but it's more like character descriptions, scene descriptions. You know, oh, trailer's dropping here, so this all sounds stuff that is believable because you and I, Brandon, have talked about like, you know, will they really introduce the humans? We kind of always leaned on the no, or maybe they'll just kind of hint around it. They won't introduce like here's Black Bolt, here's Medusa, you know, stuff like that. I do think, you know, as Bubs made a joke about Lockjaw. I think, funny enough, Lockjaw has the best chance of getting in the MCU before any other humans, because you talk about something remarkable, a teleporting dog with a thunderbolt on his head, pretty much like the magnets. Oh my goodness, like that bulldog would be all over the place, you know, like.
Come on! If Baby Yoda can sell, excuse me, Grogu can sell like that point.
Mhm.
Come on, who doesn't want a Lockjaw plushie?
And again, what I'm saying is they need to just steal from DC the way they're doing DC Super Pets over there. You got Alligator Loki, you get Lockjaw in there, get all these Marvel animals. Let's get them on a big adventure. Let's have some fun. And yeah.
There we go. There's your next animated show, Disney. Again,
Oh,
we're right here.
I would be the most excited. The same way when people crapped on the DC show that's about the Batmobile, it's like, no, this is gonna be fun. The same way I'd be first in line to watch the Marvel kids, you know, rated 7 and down,
And,
just
and, and
animal show.
again, for crying out loud, how many of those collectors out there will be lining up to get the Hot Wheels version of
Yes.
those? Come on, let's get it done.
Yeah, and I'll be getting the Lockjaw stuffy, so hopefully it happens.
Stuffy plushie.
Yeah,
yeah. All right, so that's all the news right now. We do still have actually put out the call for questions. So we got some to DMs, some to answering your calls. So let's hit some of these questions. We'll go with our buddy fanboy Clay, who is not Pew Boy fan.
Nope.
Saying, when we see the X-Men in the MCU, do you think they will be treated like the Ultimate Timeline? And at the end of whatever phase they are in, or one that they are introduced in, they are merged? Or will they branch, or will every branch of the sacred timeline be fixed by the end of the Multiverse of Madness?
So Clay, we kind of, I think he even said this in our chat. I was inspired because we were talking about that on After 9 again, for someone had brought that up. I'll just say what I'll say there shortly that I said vice versa. I'll say here what I said there shortly. I don't think so. I don't think, sure, could you introduce the X-Men? There's multiverse versions, yes, but I think that
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to stop. Is S Bub's Lockjaw versus Alligator Loki Dawn of Justice? Yes. Bravo. Bravo, S Bubs.
100%. And you know, Sawboy and Shan is right. The whole most important cut in the world, the Throg cut, released that. Another animal character that we could use is Throg. So it's building, but I think it will. The X-Men will be in the base universe. I think they will introduce them somehow. I know there's some trickery we talk about all the time, like what's going to happen with Xavier being old and stuff like that. It's tough. Is it out of the realm of possibility that they're in a multiverse and we just jump back and forth? No, not at all. And that could be the way of how they separate, make it a little bit more easy. I could completely understand, but I still think they'll do a base way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'll take the last part first. I don't think all the branches are going to be fixed by the end of Multiverse of Madness. I think there's a reason they're coming up with quote unquote rules for the
Yes.
multiverse moving forward. So I do not think it's going to be fixed. I will be very disappointed, actually, if it's fixed.
They'll
In
live
that
in
sense.
harmony. They'll find a way. Like they talked about in the finale how all the kings wanted to fight. They'll have some sort of truce, but then every once in a while there'll be somebody like, oh no, I don't want a truce. And
Yep. Now, in regards to, do I think they'll be treated like Ultimate Timeline or whatever phase? I think you and I have said that that's probably the easiest introduction to this at that point. I think you and I have both gone on record of saying like we like the ultimate version of the X-Men in the sense of, spoiler alert, again, they were created by the government,
yeah.
at that point. So that's where I kind of stand on this. Travis Hines has one more question. Which live action and animated Spider-Man suits are your favorites?
Uh, Mine is still the Toby one from the very first Spider-Man. I love the material, I love the look. Yes, I like the moving eyes for Tom Holland's. Mine is just sometimes looks like too much CG, and I love for animation the Miles Morales one from the movie because yeah, it's a lot like the suit from the comic book, but what I love about it is that spray paint aesthetic. It just has something so nice, so sleek, it stands out. So those are the two for me.
Yeah, I have a tie when it comes to animation. It's Spider-Man 2099 again. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
stan Spider-Man 2099,
Yeah,
Spider-Man Beyond, love it at that point, and the Black Symbiote from the animated series proper at that point. Seeing that
good
kind
one.
of jump off the page and that storyline done so well in animation, love that. When it comes to suits, I I really like the Iron Spider. I
Mhm.
didn't like Iron Spider in the comics, but I liked what Iron Spider was with Tom Holland at that point. So I thought that is a cool looking suit. I really do like it. It's again nothing against the other suits; they're all classic. They all have done things, but that was the most radical change to Spider-Man's suit, in my opinion. And so I think it worked very well for what the storyline they were doing. So yeah, so I'll go with those.
Well, it looks like in No Way Home, if those Hot Toys are right, we got a few more suits coming our way, so it's
A
going to be
little bit,
interesting.
a little bit.
Yeah.
At Dalen Smith says, does Loki and or Sylvie enter or re-enter the MCU for a cameo or role in the movie, or is he only to be seen on his TV show on Disney Plus? Well,
Um.
rumors have been saying since the end of Loki that he will be seen next in Multiverse of Madness, if they are to be believed.
Yeah, I was gonna say yes. Sylvie, mm, back and forth. I don't know. I think there's a good chance she bites it next season. I think Kang is going to very much how I feel like Loki is on this, or like she is on the same track as our prime Loki as far as he was bad and started good, redeemed himself. But what happened in Infinity War after he redeemed himself? He got his neck snapped. And I feel like that's going to be kind of Sylvie's journey is going to kind of mirror that because I feel like Sylvie at the end of Loki is in a similar place that Loki was in the first Thor. So I feel like some version of Kang's going to catch up with her and thank her for unleashing all these timelines, but then dispatching of her. Loki, absolutely yes. We had heard kind of these back and forth before about, hey, is he in the? I just think yes, he will be, and I might have something to say about with a fact or fiction. So we'll see.
And yes, Philip Barker, he has anointed himself the Daywalker for this episode.
I am.
My answer to this is yes, I think Loki is going to be Multiverse of Madness. Sylvie, I think, will be referenced. I don't think we'll see her until Loki season 2. Which again, if we see her earlier, great, but I think at the guaranteed Loki season 2. And our last question, our winner of one of our winners for the giveaway, Dookie said, have you guys seen the video floating around that basically syncs up the moment Wanda becomes a Scarlet Witch and when he who remains says that they have passed the threshold? I know I've seen it. I think you've seen it as well. I don't even know. Was it you that put it in the chat or who put it in
No,
our
not
chat?
me. No.
Okay,
I
so
I, I felt like I was the last person to know about it for a
yep.
while.
So I can't remember. So someone in our GUA chat knows they put it in at that point. I thought it was really cool. I think the big thing is like at this 17, like exactly the same mark as Wanda becomes it. Like you said, we get the He Remains. Maybe. I think it's really cool. I also more lean towards it's a nice coincidence. That's where I'm leaning. It's a nice coincidence, but I think it's cool, but I think it's just a coincidence.
I agree. Hey, maybe they went back in Disney Plus and edited it that way. Like they were putting Doctor Strange in the end credits. But
That
no,
shadow.
yeah, the shadow. Come on now, guys. That's not his shadow.
Who knows? The shadow knows.
Yo, yeah, that's got him in Multiverse of Madness. But no, I think I agree with the coincidence because it's also this whole thing of like we go back and forth of yeah, Loki's in this space where time doesn't exist, but the same thing is like, yeah, when does it actually still happen though? It's right after Endgame, but it's like, would it actually line up with what is happening with Scarlet Witch? I don't know. So I think it's a nice coincidence. As Bob saying the same thing. You can think of anything and anything. It's just a coincidence. Yeah, I think the big thing got people going, like Chris said, it's like they both happen at like the 27-minute mark. But I think it's just like that's the episode crescendoing. It's getting it to the highest point. So, but hey, that'd be great if he did reveal that. So
yeah, it would be good. So thank you for those questions. We are going to take our last ad break before we do Fact or Fictions and a very different comic book club this week at that point. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose when ads come on. They can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right. So let me pull up the Fact or Fictions from last week. Brent was going at that point. Next week will be me. This week will be you.
So while he's pulling up, I'm just gonna take a little moment. I always like to do this if I'm right, because you know what, ego. So I gotta throw a. I'm not right yet.
Thank me.
Yeah, thank me. Trademark everything, but a hashtag Trash told you that there was some rumor Disney Insider was putting out that Captain Carter, aka Haley Atwell, may be making an appearance, a live action appearance as that character in Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness. And a few weeks ago when I was on with my Fact or Fiction, I did have that. I said, and I was fact. I said I think it's going to happen, and it sounds like it's the exact same way I was pitching, as far as it's going to be something small. It's just going to be in that world, but you'll see it. So you know what? People, Feige's a friend of mine. So, sometimes he doesn't tell me stuff, but I can see it in his brain. But no, I hope that's true, because I think seeing her in that outfit, man, that's going to be tons of fun.
Yeah. All right. First one was, not counting Abomination Wong, Shang-Chi will feature an appearance by another MCU character. 90% said fact, 10% said fiction. We had some comments from that post-credit scene. Kind of bum if they don't, if they showed both of them and that was it. Just it'll be interesting, at that point. I kind of would love it at that point to say, Sam coming in and recruiting a la Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man. So
yeah, I was a fact in this one when I heard it, just because I feel you got end credits, you got maybe other people in that fighting arena, or just in the story. So yeah, I think I'm pretty strong fact on that one.
Number 2, in season 2 of What If, Marvel will allude to the Fox X-Men. 64% said fact, 36% said fiction. I think I was fiction on this. I think, again, they're going to stay. I don't care what the actor who played Ursa Major saying, I'm the first mutant.
Yeah,
wonderful. No. Sure, Jan. I'm glad you think
Yeah.
That's awesome. It works for you. Cool. It's a nice Easter egg. But no, I'm sorry. X-Men are, again, not going to be, if anything, it'll be the end of this phase. It will be mainly in phase 5. So I am a no on this.
I wonder if that actor who plays Ursa is good friends with Sam Benjamin, but either way, yeah, that's not counting. That's not the mutant. Even if he ends up becoming, no, I don't think so. No, I'm with you. I think it's fiction. I think what they could do as a gimmick down the line with What If is, right now they said, hey, they are going to cover all the MCU movies and kind of do some different takes on them, right? And right now there's 24? Yeah, there's 24 movies. Black Widow might not be included, but I think there's money in a What If season that is like a legacy edition or something like that, where it is like, okay, we're gonna cover, that Fantastic Four, we're gonna cover that X-Men, we're gonna cover Ang Lee's Hulk. I think there is money in this. Is the really like the what ifs. But yeah, I don't see it. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the movie has a better chance, like Multiverse of Madness, than the show.
Yeah. And the last one, Miss Minutes will have an appearance in What If. We have a tie, 50-50, where we're on the inside looking. We don't know at that point. I think I was a fiction on this. Would it be cool? Yes. Could they try to work her in? Yeah. The way the trailer seems in this, I don't think it plays with the tone in this. It seems, unless they really wanted to capitalize on Loki at some point, I think this is really focused on the movies versus the shows?
Yeah, can you say the exact question to me again?
Yeah, Miss Minutes will have an appearance in What If.
So do you think that is for this first season or just in general, like the show What If? Because I could say if it's this season, no, I don't think so. If it's in general, I would say
Uh,
yes, but down the line.
yeah,
I don't I don't think so.
it was Brent's question. I'll channel in his question. I think we know we have 2 seasons confirmed,
Yeah.
so we'll take they're basically almost in the bag or finishing up with season 2 at that point. I I'm with you. If it does, it's not these first 3 seasons.
No, I agree. I think so because if she's back and Sub says human miss minutes and Loki season 2 calling it now, hey, you might not be wrong. This show's crazy, right?
I
So
will take Tara Strong as Miss
yeah,
Minutes. That is yes. Exactly. Fanboy Clay said Tara Strong playing a human variant for Miss Minutes. Yes, all
yeah,
day.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. So I asked Bubs, do you think that's a crazy one? No. People shouldn't be saying you're crazy.
No.
Yeah, I think down the line, but not right now. I think this first What If is really going to be about the Infinity Saga and that. So it's almost like a chicken soup for the soul. It's just like reminding you of the good times while
Yeah.
some crazy stuff's happening, like Killmonger and Iron Man teaming up. So
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. As the guest, you come up with fact or fictions this week. So hit me with your hot takes of fact or fictions.
So there's one I'm excited for because I've been waiting for weeks, but I'm going to start with the easier ones or just ones we've kind of hinted upon. So Marvel Studios will release an animated theatrical movie in the next 3 years. This is obviously tied to we talked about their creating animation studio. Yep. It's smaller now, but hey, if things are success, grows, stuff like that. So theatrical animation movie next 3 years. Doesn't have to be connected to MCU, could be whatever want, just has to be theatrical, a big budget, like big promotion, like the way Spider-Verse was.
If I will say fact, but it's a very, very light fact. And they would basically, the way I know animation is a whole lot different, but you are looking at a 2 to 3 year production time for animation.
Yes.
So see, and S Bubs, you bring up either point at that point too, because it all depends on how deep they're into this whole studio. If they've established studio, I think they've already had the studio, but I don't.
Yeah, S Bubs for the listeners. He said next 3 years, no, 5 years maybe. But that's why I picked 3. Because 5, 5 is spread out. 3 is that like they could be working on something, but they gotta be working on it in the near future here.
I would say if you said show, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say yes for a show. I do not see an animation movie. I'm with S Bubs. I would say 5 is at the latest. I think the 4 and 5 is the sweet spot that we will see one.
So Family Case says next 5 years. I say the next 5 years. 3 years is too soon for something they're testing out. See, but that's the thing where it's just like they didn't do animation and then What If was a thing, right? So it's like there was no and sure it's on Disney Plus, but it was just like when they announced that it was like, yeah, we're doing a series about all these movies. That's why I did go with 4 or 5 because I feel like that was too easy. Because 3 years from now, that takes us to 2024. That's in that like unknown region, right? We know we get to 2023, we know it's coming, but after that, we don't know. I'm gonna say fact. I'm gonna say they got this mini studio. They could be working on something right now. Like I've always said, my dream is I hope one day they partner with Pixar and do something. But I'm gonna say if this was 5 years, 4 years, I'd say fact. If it's ever, yes, fact. But 3 years. I think there's a chance that there is in that 2024 slot something, like because I feel like even now with What If and then being like it's multiple seasons and they're creating an animation studio, I think they could have been like, hey, we're really enjoying this. And then again, at the end of the day, I already said that Spider-Verse was the inspiration. That won an Oscar. I feel like they look and they go, you know what, we could do something like that. May not win an Oscar, but they could have even more promotion than Spider-Verse did. So I'm saying fact.
And I know, yes, Big Hero 6. I just want to put that out there. We're not ignoring Big Hero 6. We're just saying, like, with this particular, we'll that's a difference that, we'll bring baby Big Hero back into the MCU.
Fanboy Kid says Disney XD's had Spider-Man show for the past 6 years. They've had animation. Yes, but to me, it's different to the same way as like, oh yeah, in Daredevil, they talk about a guy with a hammer. That's not Feige-fied, that's not like, here we go.
Feige-fied. He created a term.
Yeah, that's like Feige has his hands all over that, right? He didn't give two shits about that Spider-Man XD show. He doesn't care what they're doing. So that's what I mean. Like, this would be he's on the red carpet. I'm really excited to, like, as far as SBUB says that's in development or announcement. Yeah, announcement could be true, and that's where I didn't clarify with the question, but I will just say out, because nothing happens. But I do think, okay, yeah, an announcement is very possible too. So yeah, I thought that was fun with the news and
Yeah.
everything. So we talked about this again a little bit. The listener asked a question. I was like, oh, is he taking my fact or fiction? But no, it was close enough. So Loki and the current Loki and Thor will interact in Phase 4. So we have our Thor that was from Infinity War, Endgame, Golden Love and Thunder, and the Loki that we have now, the end of Season 1, who's very disheveled. They will interact in Phase 4. I did not pick Phase 5 because I feel like that's a clear, like, oh yeah, for sure, like that's pretty easy. So we have Love and Thunder coming up. We have Multiverse of Madness. We have other things. So that's why I'm asking you, in Phase 4, will they meet up again?
Do you count What If?
No,
I know. Yeah, I know.
He almost had me. He was a gotcha.
I knew the answer was gonna be no. I just wanted to be a jerk about it. I say fact on that one.
Really? Where do you think they meet up?
I know they've kept on saying no. I could see Love and Thunder.
Well, and that's SBUB brings up, and I'm gonna play. I don't know, because I for months have been saying that I think Loki will be in Love and Thunder, because I just always go back to the way Taika answered that question. He answered in a very non-Taika like prepared way, like. But again, I always wonder, is that Kid Loki? And that's where we see, because that wouldn't count, not Kid Loki. I still am pitching the Thor 5. It's Taika directing Natalie Portman and Thor, taking care of Kid Loki, these hijinks. I think that's the movie you do. But I'm gonna say fiction. I think it's gonna happen in Phase 5 now. I could be completely wrong, but I think where we will get it is, I don't think we're getting Secret Wars in Phase 4. I would think you'd agree with that, right? No, I think
we're getting it, but I don't think it's Phase 4.
I think that's where you would have it, or post-credit just before that. And this is something I'm willing into existence because, yeah, sure, people be like, oh, we've seen Loki and Thor together so much. But I feel like this is the first time Loki is a genuine, almost going to be 100% hero this time, right? And I want to see Thor's reaction when he sees his brother walk through a portal or something like that, and he's completely changed, and he's just there to do good. No more mischief, no more nothing. I want him to see the Loki that hugged Mobius and was like, you're my friend now. I need that interaction for the MCU. So I'll say fiction, but Love and Thunder has a very, very good shot of happening even in a post-credit scene. But I'll say fiction for now.
Yeah.
And then finally, this was inspired by, our DC brethren. They have a movie coming up, like we said, Suicide Squad, and they had talked to James Gunn in an interview. I can't remember who did, about like people that have crossed, sides and whatnot. Yes, there's another guy that kind of directed a DCU movie and then a Marvel movie, but other than that, from through and through, it was James Gunn. So my question to you, Chris, is fact or fiction? A DCEU director will direct an MCU film in the next 5 years. And I'll say this will be announced to direct. I'll do that because that's brought up a good situation with the animation. The animation I won't change, but this one I'll say announced to direct a film in the next 5 years.
I could see that. I'll say fact. I don't think it's a strong fact at that point, but I still think that DC has its own draw at that point, and I think someone say, "Hey, what character would you like to do?" You've gotten your notoriety. We know you can do that at that point. Ghost Rider Phase 5, as Bub's saying, Ghost Rider directed by Zack Snyder. Though I love
the internet wouldn't survive.
The internet's barely surviving right now. I could definitely see it. Love Zack Snyder. I don't think the MCU's for him. He's having a good time at Netflix, and thank goodness for that. But yeah, I could see it in 5 years. I could see it. Who I don't know. Who I don't know.
Yeah, the man's got a first look over deal. He's doing pretty well there. So I did the same thing because at first I was fiction because I was going through the directors. I'm like, Snyder, no, I don't think it would go well for anybody involved.
The Twitter would just break that day.
Yes. One, no, because I feel like he's gonna have his fill. He's said after Aquaman 2, he's done. Air, not a chance. And then after that,
Not a chance.
you have the guy who directed, I can't remember his name. It's like Sarah or something, the guy who directed Black Adam. Now he directed Jungle Cruise. So if they had a good experience, there's a possibility there. But where I'm a fact, and Clay just had to be the spoiler and say it in the chat, Patty Jenkins, I think, has a very strong chance because what happened, not immediately, they had meetings, but I always say it's very funny that, them and Warner Brothers maybe didn't have a falling out, but didn't see eye to eye on the release of 1984, this whole HBO Max business. And then a month later, after we announced Wonder Woman 3, look who's directing Rogue Squadrons, I think, and if you listen to her read, I can't remember all of them, but she cited two other characters that she was inspired by and would love to direct. One of them was Superman and one of them was Spider-Man. Am I saying she's going to direct Spider-Man 4? No, but if John Watts is busy with Fantastic Four, man, if they announced, and sure, I didn't love 1984, but I liked it enough. I loved the first one. If they were announced Patty Jenkins directing Spider-Man 4, man, that would be pretty interesting. I think that would get a lot of people excited.
Pretty busy right now between not only Wonder Woman but like you said, Rogue Squadron. That's a tall order down the line. Not saying it's because she's Patty Jenkins. I'm just saying like she's got two majors right now that is going to be occupying her time.
And you're right about that. I do think she will do Wonder Woman 3 to close out the trilogy. I do think Rogue Squadrons, but again, if Rogue Squadrons goes well financially, critically, and they like the relationship, at least it opens up an idea. So you could be right as far as my 5 years. That might be wrong, but who knows what happens? What if Wonder Woman 3 falls apart? What if for some reason it doesn't happen, right? It wouldn't be the first time with Warner Brothers for something to fall apart.
That will happen. I think if Gal Gadot wants that to happen at that point to be, close out that. As Bob says, Matt Reeves. I think Matt Reeves is very much firmly entrenched at Warner Brothers right now with the Batman universe, whatever Gotham Central is going to be. I
don't know. I've heard him and Pattinson hate each other. They're fighting on the set. Pattinson said he will not work with Matt Reeves ever again.
I thought Matt was there cheering Pattinson on when him and Zoe on the Batmobile. I heard that.
After they said they would not name the baby after they said they would not name the baby after Matt, he said, that's it. I can't associate with you. So yeah, you know what? 5 years, I actually will say fiction now. But I know, because it was a good point. You brought up a good point of Rogue Squadrons. That's going to be a hefty, lots of time, promotion, Wonder Woman. And even if Wonder Woman didn't happen, that's a lot of time. So I could see, but I do think Jenkins, I think if Rogue goes well, I think there's a good shot she does it. Even if it's just like my big hope, Spider-Gwen, something like that. Like I could see her doing it. So dang, you guys said the joke before me. I said, it was sitting right there,
Yeah, so. Sorry, it's too easy. Whenever anyone brings up that whole story, it's probably my favorite. We got this covered. One of my favorites.
And fanboy Clay, I don't think that Cleopatra movie is going to happen. I think there's already been enough pushback on some of the race issues and stuff like that, where it's like, no, I think that's going to be one of those that they're like, you know what, we can take a walk on this one. I'm going to direct something else. And like I said, I think Chris is right about Wonder Woman 3, but I think there's still if you were to ask me if it's possible that it could not happen, yeah, it's possible. I think if her and Warner Brothers don't get on the same page, it happens all the time.
Yep. And like I said, the reason I say I don't know is just because the current directors that have been named, I'm looking at 5 years down the line, a sense of a director that is either involved in the HBO Max properties, things like that could very feasibly be within that 5 year kind of line. I think that's more than possible. So, I mean, technically we've had, the directors from Miss Marvel, they're going down the back row route. So.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Right there, doing back row. Who just got cast.
It's more than possible. So.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right. So before we get into we're on Comic Book Club. We will close out Agent of Asgard next week. Brent does send his apologies. This was a last minute work thing. He was very sad he could not be here to close it out, but we did post the listener choice. The theme was multiverse, and to say I'm surprised was putting it lightly. In the sense of like what ended up winning, and not in a bad way. Brent and I talked offline. It's like we were this the winner was not who we thought was going to win.
Mhm.
Um, for a while there, it was Marvel 1602 with a slight edge on X-Men Age of X. And there was a few votes that came in at the last minute, and Age of X beat out Marvel 1602 47-38. Bullet Points got 15% and absolutely no love for Marvel 1985.
Apparently, people were
uh,
not into the 80s, you know?
yeah, not into that. So we will, upon the conclusion of next week with Agent of Asgard, we will start Age of X. Once Brent and I speak, that's 11 issues. It's an interesting one just because it crosses over all X-Men titles. So we'll go back and forth on it. We'll kind of span it out, see if it lines up, because the next one will be our choice as the host. So we'll let you know next week if we're going to do one or two issues at a time. It wouldn't be more than two, I don't think, but we'll see.
I'm excited because I know Brent's read a lot of X-Men and likes X-Men, but I feel like it's not on like his higher, like as far as you and me, that's our go-tos, right? Like we're
Yeah.
X-Men guys, we're him, Spider guy, a few other things, but I know he's read like all new Wolverine. So I'm interested to get his thoughts in there, yours as well, but just because like when you are someone that's like, okay, it's not your go-to, like same thing like he's said before, like House of X and Dawn of X, not his exactly cup of tea. This is a whole lot different, but I'm very excited.
Fanboy Clay is even shocked at that point. Age of X ones, yeah, and people, and we did debate, we did put out there when we were coming up with these choices of Age of Apocalypse. Age of Apocalypse is not 11 issues. Age of Apocalypse is two omnibuses that are sitting right behind me, one for the proper and one for all the other tie-ins at that point.
That's a
Not
spin-off show.
yeah, it is a show within itself. So
yeah, that is, you know what, and that's why I support us, listen to us on Patreon. You never know in the future, but yeah, Age of, there's some of those where it's like, yeah, that would be we are dedicating a whole weekly show to this. Not that'd be a lot of work for you guys, you know.
Yeah, it would be, but yeah, so we will start that in 2 weeks. Let me go back to my notes. Obviously, it is on Marvel Unlimited. I believe, I do not believe, since it kind of crossed over a number of issues, it is not necessarily on Comixology Unlimited, but again, Marvel Unlimited, it's there. So check that out. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And we were not going to have a comic book club, but then you brought up, and we're very impressed, as I was impressed, with Moon Knight issue #1. So I said, let's do this. And so what did you take away? You are the big Moon Knight stan of this network. So
well, he said impressed. I was surprised. I never said that. I said I was intrigued, you know, but no, yes, I was impressed. I liked it. So as of recent Moon Knight stuff, obviously for before, I've praised the 2016 run. The run after that, where I've talked about a few weeks ago, recommendations, with a big thank you to the listeners, because a few people reached out and said like, oh, I'm reading this now. I'm reading this now. So that's always the best, as far as like, I read comics, not nearly as much as Chris and Brennan as far as their backlog of knowledge. But when I put some out there and people are enjoying it, that makes me feel good, instead of like, oh, this was dog shit, why did you so I'm happy people are enjoying it. But like, I love that 2016 run. The run after that, like I said, it was a bit more bigger actioner as far as the city and whatnot, and it has a bit more like a goofy sense to it. So this issue, at first when it opened up, it was very much like Moon Knight's on the run, or not on the run, but he's like running after somebody, there's some big action. I was like, okay, it's gonna be maybe a bit more of that, you know, crime fire stuff, which I like. But the Moon Knight I'm into is the more inside his brain, trying to figure out his life, trying to figure out who he is, the quintessential what am I, who am I, what my purpose is, right? And I think this book, so far, we're just in one issue, obviously. It's very, and we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you want to read this book, we'll have some non-spoilers.
Just came out 2 days ago, so
yeah. So we'll start with some baseline stuff, and we won't get into deep spoilers, but there's a few characters I'll reference. I think this so far is a good mix of it. Looks like it's going to have some action. It looks like it's going to have some of that crime fighting stuff, but then we're setting up a new type of method to deal with his madness. And it sounds weird, and if you haven't read, you'd be like, really? But the way I would describe it is, it kind of has a Fight Club-esque feel. Now, Moon Knight's always had that because he has the multiple personalities, but he is on a mission right now, and for the most non-spoiler way, his mission involves recruiting other people, much like Tyler Durden, and it kind of has that, I don't know if this is the person that should be recruiting people, but he feels this is going to make stuff better. So I thought it was a really intriguing, good start to, okay, this hooked me, because Moon Knight I feel very pressured, where I did finish the last run, but I haven't. I'm gonna reread it, I think, soon, just because I feel like I have to give it a better shot, because when you have something that's so great and then something that's just good, sometimes you just kind of look down upon that. You go, oh, but it wasn't what I just loved, right? So you kind of have, I want to reread it, but this so far was a really nice start, and I think they did a good job of introducing a few potential antagonists and introducing a kind of side B, other side of coin Moon Knight character, because he doesn't really have that. All his characters don't look like him, his villains like Bushman, stuff like that. But if you look at some like Flash as Reverse Flash, stuff like that, this character hopefully could be that, but it could also flop. We've seen that before when you introduce, reverse version of said character and it works, or you go, okay, you're no Yellow Jacket, you kind of suck. So what are your thoughts? Because I know you haven't read much Moon Knight, so I'm interested to
Yeah,
hear what you thought.
I definitely haven't read as much as you. It's definitely been a long time since I've read a Moon Knight. I mean, I'm going back to the last time I've read Moon Knight was David Finch,
Yeah,
being artist at that point. Have not read the when the Mr. Knight personality got kind of introduced with, I believe it was Jeff Lemire's run.
No, it was right before that with Warren Ellis, unfortunately.
Okay, Warren Ellis. Okay, so what
Yeah.
I did, so but I stay in tune of what's going on in a lot of different series at that point, even though I'm not following it. It's on my one day I'll read list. Probably as we get closer to Moon Knight at that point, the series. But I really liked how we tied in, like you said, the action with Moon Knight, the Mr. Knight personality running the basically the church at that point. And
it's a mission, Chris.
it's a mission at that point. And I like that he is basically trying to be whether you a hero for hire in a sense, and like, hey, there are vampires out here bothering. Okay, I'm gonna talk to Mr. Moon Knight, and he will take that. You got Vermin over there, and I like the dynamic of him talking to the psychologist, and the psychologist knows his disorder and understand what is going on at that point, but it's one of those things that, like, for those of you who have not been following what's been going on in Avengers, they do make reference to he has had a falling out and has basically turned his back on the moon god Khonshu. Khonshu kind of went a little crazy and tried to take over all the powers and the Phoenix Force, and like it got pretty crazy. So he has turned his back on Khonshu, but still trying to do what he felt was right about the mission as the hand of Khonshu, or the fist of Khonshu, as it were.
And Moon Knight / Mark Spector and Khonshu is the biggest will they won't they for that character. That is his love interest, because when you said like, oh, they had a falling out, that is them to everything. It's just like, oh, they don't see eye to eye, they don't get along, and something always happens with him and Khonshu. And it's funny when you said like he's a hero for hire. It kind of feels like, and I don't know if people will understand this if they're newer, but it has an X-Files feel, almost of like he's dealing with like the weird stuff, right? Like monsters and, like you said, werewolf stuff. And it almost has this almost Men in Black feel too, where it's just people that don't believe these urban myths and everything like that.
Yep. Khonshu is currently in an Asgardian prison. That is true.
There's an S in that Khonshu. Come on, Clay. You're the comic guy. But no, thank you for putting me in there. Because I'm like Chris, where I had read about what happened there, but I did not read that one because I was like, I don't know if I have time to jump right back into Avengers. But like I said, has this been in Blackfield, where it feels like he's dealing with the boogeyman of the Marvel universe, like the urban myths and everything like that. And I really enjoy that. The other thing I enjoyed was this, why, maybe one day we'll review it on our show, Chris does. But when you read the 2016 one, I think you will enjoy it, because the trippiness of Hannibal, that's what that series has. This with him with the psychiatrist remind me of those with Hannibal, as far as Hannibal and Will and their sessions, and they're talking about like getting in each other's mind and everything like that. And this is it, because it's just like she's in a unique situation. The Avengers have sent him there to get therapy, and she's dealing with a man whose brain has literally been changed, been changed. Now, that's where it comes into my like negatives or cons, as far as you've heard me before. People might say I'm picky, and that's how I am sometimes with certain characters, but I've always said
very picky.
Yeah, I always said I really prefer the Moon Knight that is, you don't know if Khonshu is real or not. Is it in his head? Is it not? What happened in Avengers and what happens here with them saying like, oh, Khonshu literally changed your brain schematics. That appeals to me less, because I like the idea of him being untrustworthy, because people go, you believe in an Egyptian god? Like, that's kind of weird and stuff like that. There's no proof of that, but he really believes it, right? And maybe it
Mhm.
could be real, could be not. So this series, if you're like me, if you like the mystery of it, they kind of take that out. But I'm fine with different adaptations for this because we've had lots of, is Khonshu real, is he not? So
Mhm.
it's going to be interesting. They set up two antagonists of one person in the shadows who I didn't like. At first, I was thinking was Jigsaw because, like, oh, and look, Clay's bringing that up right now. At first, I thinking it was Jigsaw because they're in New York. His face looked a little like scrumaged and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
then he was talking very like almost philosophical, which isn't Jigsaw. Jigsaw's not that smart of a character. He's a gangster. So not sure, but you never know. They could redo the character, right? And then that's my theory for that. I'll save Hunter Moon, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, it was interesting at that point. I think my favorite part of the issue is kind of dealing with three different things that are going on: the psychologist, Mr. Knight, and seeing the action. I think it kept the beats going.
Yeah.
And I know we kind of want to close out with the introduction of our. We're right now going to go definitely an antagonist slash maybe villain in Hunter Moon.
Yeah.
Very much an idea of he's felt that Moon Knight has lost his way. He is no longer the right person to be the the right hand of Khonshu, and he should be the one delving out the permanent of justice.
Azrael.
That's right.
But that's what I was trying to say in the non-spoilers. Like, we've seen this trope many times with heroes before, right? Like, even if it's something as far as like Spider-Man to Venom, but we've seen hey, he is the other side of the coin. He literally says, if Moon Knight is the right hand of Khonshu, I am the left hand of Khonshu. Now, that comes with a lot of baggage. Yeah, that comes with a lot of baggage because when you're trying to say, like, oh, this is the equivalent to Moon Knight, we've seen that fall on its face a few times. But I think if they slow burn this, he could be, like you were kind of hinting, as far as like an antagonist, but eventually like an anti-hero, something like that, like a Frank Castle, where like, yeah,
that's
he's
Moon
bad.
Knight basically at that point.
Well, 100%, right? So that's why I don't think he would be fully bad, but that's where I think that it was a really good starting issue and instead of a lot of intriguing stuff. This is one. The other one I will be reading weekly. I'm going to catch up, I swear, is Nightwing. I'm just so disappointed and so busy, but literally I've been like, this weekend, I wanted to sit down and read it, but then I'm prepping my house for a bachelor party, which is just always fun time. So it's just like, I don't know when I have time, but this is one that I will be reading weekly because Moon Knight for me is just always an intriguing character. I like to see what they do. And then incorporating him in this bigger Marvel universe, as far as the Avengers saying, hey, you should get therapy, and him being a bit more associated with him, might be a little tip of the hat of like what we might be getting in the MCU, right? We've talked about that before, where lots of times when they reprint stuff or a character takes a certain turn, in the MCU, they're kind of like that. And I could see them really relying on the Mr. Knight character because he's a bit more, he's the Moon Knight who's friendly. He can talk. But then you actually have him being like the shepherd of weirdos, which I really like. That he's just like, he's Batman, but instead of taking in orphans, he's taking in monsters. And I really like that humor of the woman that got bit by the werewolf. And she's like, I was a vegan yesterday. And then she got that coffee. She's like, I remembered, I don't even drink this anymore here. And he's like, oh, don't mind if I do. And Moon Knight just so callous, just like he kind of has a Dexter sense of humor about him where he says something, but he doesn't realize that that shouldn't be, it's wrong to say it that way. He's kind of emotionless in that way, but yeah, oh, don't mind if I do. Drinks the coffee,
Yeah. So definitely, yeah, I'm definitely gonna at least continue through the first arc, probably the second. If the second arc kind of falls, like sometimes they do at that point, we'll see. But so check out Moon Knight #1. It's out there, and but yeah, I think that was a good way to do it. And again, you love your Moon Knight, so
it was a good time though. So thanks for talking about it.
Yeah, no problem. So again, next week we will close out Agent of Asgard, and we will go from there to head into X-Men: Age of X. So volume 59. I appreciate you joining me this week and subbing in for Brent and making your monthly appearance. So
yeah, hopefully next month I will be on when all three of us are on, because that's only happened once, but hopefully we'll do that. And either way, I'm excited because we got What If coming up soon, so I can't wait to hear you guys talk about that. And then before you know it, Shang-Chi is here, so it's a good time to be a Marvel Alliance fan.
Exactly, make mine Marvel, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, why don't you tell people how they can follow you and plug what you got going on at Geekverse?
You can follow me at Traspy Snail. This week we have a few reviews of Snake Eyes. I'm not seeing that, but Snake Eyes and Old. And
In
next week I
45
actually,
days, you will.
yeah, in 45 days. Next week, I actually get to see The Green Knight, which I'm really excited because at one point we weren't getting it, but we are. But if you don't like me, then don't tune in. But if you like me for the first like 2.5 weeks of August, it's just me. One co-host has had a baby, one's traveling to see a family, and one's on their honeymoon. So it's literally just me at Geek First. I might have some guests on, but I'm gonna have some fun holding it down with some solo casts. So, but I did get to do a victory lap because they're not there for What If. So I went, haha, suckers, you missed the first 2 episodes. So yeah, if any shenanigans, follow me at Trustby Snail, and yeah, it won't be boring.
Definitely. And again, want to thank our official sponsor again, organicpricebooks.com. They are responsible for this giveaway. Thank you so much, JP. Again, use that code Marvel GUA at checkout. Again, they've got it going on at the OPB. Thank you very much for being our sponsor. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balgi. You can follow this podcast at Marvel A Podcast, and you can follow Brent at Brent Tech Pime. Check out Fans Without Borders as well. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GWayPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask factor fictions, questions, everything that's going on, your hopes and dreams for what if in the future of the multiverse. Continue to rate and review the podcast, solo podcast feed, and the GUA network feed and Apple Podcasts, whichever podcast your choice may be. Thank you again. We had a very lively chat tonight. We appreciate you. Those of you who are in the chat, those of you who are on listeners, our patrons, thank you all so much. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right. So what are we talking about for our end credits scene tonight?
So this was inspired by, I think it was Fanboy, Clay, or Heinz, one of them. You know, they're not in sync, but they're in sync at the very same time. You know, but they had brought up like, we were talking about Flashpoint and reboots and all that stuff, and will the MCU ever reboot? And I want to get your thoughts on this, Chris. Of will the MCU be a thing that, if it goes for another 30 years or superhero comic book movies die out of popularity, the MCU will still be the thing, discontinuity, or will we get a point where they hit that reset button and they go, okay, we're starting off fresh?
I think it's definitely a distinct possibility. I think the multiverse really does lend itself to that idea, especially if we will have a Secret Wars, in the sense of some things change, other things will stay the same. You know, it says, oh my gosh, it sounds like DC's Crisis. Well, in this case, Marvel's had their own kind of crisis with House of M, Secret Wars, the Infinity Gauntlet. So I think, if anything, very much a hard reboot where we're starting everything from scratch. I don't see that, but I do see a reboot in the future if the multiverse does lend itself to that idea, that possibility.
Yeah, I agree. And I come from the point of it as far as I think there's still more stories to tell with Tony Stark. There's more stories to tell with Steve Rogers, and there's definitely more stories to tell with T'Challa. But the thing is, if you have this universe that is, okay, this is this set of films, these characters, these lives, the multiverse is an interesting thing because it starts opening up doors. But do I think they'll ever, like Chris said, where, okay, 10 years, like no more of these, we're starting over from scratch? I don't think so. I think there would be gateways to, okay, they almost like a backdoor pilot that they'd set up a universe and maybe we jump to that universe and you get your finale for the MCU, right? Whatever they want to call it, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe Earth 1, right? And that's the send off. People are tired. This is the point where Tom Hiddleston's 80, but he's still playing Loki, everything like that. But
he's
then
classic Loki, literally.
Yeah, he's literally classic Loki in the suit and all. But then, much like the comic books where you have the Ultimate Universe, and I think the Ultimate Universe is, you brought up a lot of big events and stuff that like melded the universe, created new West and stuff like that. But for me, the Ultimate Universe was the very first time that they felt like they were doing, okay, this is a bunch of new universes, we're committing to it, starting from scratch, but then kind of referencing the stuff you know and love. And I think that's what they could do there, where the GA will know and love the MCU, but this will be referencing in a different way. And like maybe you have Tony Stark as a teenager this time, much like they've done other ones. And that's where I think that you could have some fun and do some things with that. I think it's a little ways down the line now. It's interesting when Clay brought up in the beginning of the show as far as hey, could the X-Men be from a different universe? If that is the case, if they go to the multiverse, already they're kind of setting themselves up for other possibilities. But I'm saying, let's say if they are just an MCU proper, no multiverse stuff, the X-Men alone, I think, give you another 10 years. And Chris is definitely right where I agree with him that I think they'll debut in phase 5, but I think it won't be till like 7 or 6 where they're like, we have like 10 projects or like 6 projects of them. But I think there is like legitimately a time where you could do 3 phases of just X-Men stuff with the characters, with the spin-off stuff. So X-Men affords them another 10 years. Now, it all depends on the market, right? Maybe in 5 years, audience is done with it. But I've been being told since
they actually demand the Inhumans at that point.
Oh, exactly. At the Inhumans are bust, right? But I've been told, I don't know, since 2016 of, superhero fatigue. It's going to be sent in. And I don't know. Here we are. These shows are still trending, talked about all the time. They still do well at the box office in a COVID world. So I honestly don't think we're close to the superhero fatigue. Ask me again in 5 years, but I said that about last time with superhero fatigue. And then we got Endgame, which was the biggest movie of all time. Yeah, it was a crescendo to something ending, but I still think they can do that again. So that's where I kind of am on it.
Yeah, I mean, I did forget what not many X-Men fans celebrate is Onslaught, which led to Heroes Reborn, not the one that just came out, but literally the completely in a different way. But like you bring up the point is like more stories to tell, a different universe, a different multiverse to tell with Tony Stark. Does that mean we're getting back RDJ? No, we don't have to get back RDJ to have Iron Man. We don't, again, we have Ironheart coming. We have different ways and different interpretations. So again, not a storyline. Being an X-Men fan, I own it. I read it. It's not definitely nowhere near my favorite, but it brought about some interesting stories. So, but yeah, we'll see. And definitely love to hear listeners' thoughts on that. And hope you enjoyed this end credits. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.